Let's then. Is this everyone? Isn't this like quite a short list? Looks like everyone at first glance. Anyway, yeah, Dark Souls 3 tier list. Like,
Let's
we just
fucking
put
go.
everything in like C or B and be done with it,
Yeah.
except one fight.
R- right off the hop. What do we got?
Abyss Watchers.
Abyss Watchers, right off the hop. That's a low S, high A.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. It's a great fight. You walk in, you see someone who looks a lot like Artorias. It's got a great cutscene, great fight, great surprise moment when another one comes up, and then another one, and you're like, "Fuck me!" But then he helps you, maybe, as long as you're not too close to him. He's very fickle. He
Mm.
just doesn't like people in his personal area. So if you're in his bubble, he'll fight you. But yeah, great move set, cool gimmick, and then phase two, great fight. I'm not going to fault it with how trivial it gets on hit lists. But yeah, just great fight. Great theme as well. It's, yeah, I'm low S, high A. I would probably put it in the low S.
Doc?
S for me for all of the reasons Killah put forward, and I'd add that I think it's a very compelling boss from a lore standpoint too, as they're essentially sort of followers of Artorias conducting the work that Artorias failed to execute on in DS1. So I think that that's a very nice kind of addition to Artorias' story. DS2 fans, that's how you pay homage to an iconic boss instead of just sticking the reskin of that boss in the next game. Um, yeah, it's a banger of a boss. I always look forward to fighting it. No brainer S tier for me.
B tier. Uh,
Okay, justify it.
yep. Uh, I'm not giving them a pass for how trivial they become in like something like Hitless. Like even with Deathless, even on subsequential playthroughs of like a casual thing, like not even like okay in the bow run they were a bit of a challenge mainly because I couldn't get them down as fast. But like even if I do a casual playthrough, like it's so easy to manipulate them into like getting those backstabs off, and that their backstab frame is so much wider than some of the other boss fights. Like I think I've said this like during one of Nyx's streams, or maybe Shik's. I'm not sure anymore. That with like the backstabs of like Sister Freed, it's always just a little bit off where you have to stand. With Abyss Watchers, it's like you can stand anywhere at their back, you will get that backstab off. Um, and then, as you point out, like yeah, you got the first one. I mean, lore-wise, it's an amazing boss. Like lore-wise, I can not fault them. Um, and then it is an amazing opening cutscene. Like you come in, they're fighting each other. Like even the transition cutscene, great. Um, but yeah, they're just so easy to manipulate. Like even
I
on
mean,
like a first playthrough, because like yeah, I played this first on PC, um, with mouse and keyboard back in the day. Like I got my backstabs off there, like even unintentionally. Like I dodged their attacks, and I was just behind them at that point. I just pressed the button, and it was like, oh, we got a backstab off. This is actually easy to pull off. Like it doesn't need any training or anything to get those backstabs off. They're just so fucking easy, and you can manipulate them in getting just series after series after series of backstabs.
You know you don't have to fight King a lot, right?
Yeah, I
you can
know.
just, stand
You,
there and fucking spew garbage at
you
him,
at
and
the
you don't even
very least
aggro him.
have to move around to beat them.
Yeah. Same
But
with
yeah,
Time
but
Locker, by
but
the way. I'm
that's
not
Yeah,
taking this for you, Ginge. That is a ridiculous criterion you brought into the fight.
yeah, you can't take the hitless
I'm not
strats.
listening to this. That is ridiculous.
No, but it's. I also said like it is like what even on casual playthroughs, like it's easy to get those backstabs off, and you can say like, okay, you don't have to fight a land, but I didn't find the cheese for a land on the first playthrough. I found the easier way to deal with Abyss Watchers on the first playthrough. There's a difference.
Let's take a land out of it. There's plenty of other bosses that you can, find the cheese on the first playthrough for, or who are comically easy, and you still put them up in A or even S tier on your, on your rants from last week. How are you going to put them in B tier for being easy as you put it? And by the way, it's been a while since I played DS3, but I don't recall backstab farming to be as easy as you're putting it. Like you're making it sound like.
I would like to see Ginge go fight them right now, melee, and get it first try.
I'm with you.
I don't think
you're talking about it. It also sounds like you do it hitless, so that's what I want to see.
I mean, not necessarily hitless. Not necessarily hitless.
But you won't die first try.
Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, you gotta see that next stream.
No offense, but I'm better at DS3 than you. And I don't think I just, have some sort of conga line to backstab set up for them. I think it requires a lot more intelligence and opening up a sort of an understanding of where the position is to get the backstab than you're giving them credit for. But despite that, I just think it's ridiculous that you're bringing this as a criterion that, like, the hitless is super easy, and so the boss is rubbish. I mean,
no, that's not what I'm saying, Doc.
Bosses we should be trashing.
I'm not saying because the hitless is easy, because I don't do it hitless. Like, I'm not a hitless runner.
No, but when we say hitless, it's just the strats. Like, once you know the strats, you can argue that so many of the bosses are trivial.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Exactly. Like, even in like the first playthrough, I got like I died to Abyss Watchers in my first playthrough. Like, I'm not gonna say I didn't, but even in the first playthrough, I got some backstabs off where I was like, okay, they're easy to backstab, and I'm gonna start baiting that shit out. I'm gonna start looking at my positioning, and I did that in subsequent playthroughs all the time, and I'm just saying that that's what makes it easier for me, because I'm not saying I'm gonna do it hitless. I'm not saying that I'm gonna do the whole game deathless or anything, or that, like, I have it down to a science when to bait them out. But I'm saying they are very susceptible to that, and it is easier to bait out the backstabs than it is in comparison to, like, something like Sister Freed.
Okay, let me also add that you are choosing to do that. There's no reason to backstab scum them. You can fight them head on, and it's a much more compelling fight. You are choosing to backstab scum and then trash the boss.
I am choosing to do that. I am choosing to do that, but I'm choosing to do that because it's so easy, and because I found it on the very first playthrough. Like, I didn't go looking for cheeses on the first playthrough, or for easy, for easy strats.
Well,
I just found it.
Yeah, but I don't think it's fair to slander the boss for that, because there's no reason whatsoever that you need to fight that way. You are choosing to do that, and thereby you are choosing to make the fight, as you put it, a sort of, series of backstabs. And I will say again, it's been a while for me since I played DS3, but I don't remember it being that easy to farm the backstabs. I mean, I think you have to know the moveset fairly well, and there's certain attacks where the backstab opens up, or otherwise you're getting fucked up by them.
Even if you're not cheesing a lot, you could argue the same point if you're going to fight him melee. If you do it the same way you do Abyss Watchers, you just leave space, let him do a charge, hit him once, get the space back, he'll keep on doing the same thing. So that's why I'm saying if you're taking it for strats, like, after you found it, I highly doubt you found out you could backstab them right away.
Yeah, I mean, bro, you gave Taurus Demon an A last week. Taurus Demon has multiple ways that you can make the fight a joke. You can jump on him and take out half his health bar. He can fall off the fucking arena before he even fights you. And you're gonna tell me that Abyss Watchers is B tier? Come on, sir.
Yeah. And welcome in, Nico.
Hey, Nico.
Yeah, I am. I am gonna say it's B tier, and like it's
That's
not like,
incredible.
and I've said this, like it's not that I went out of my way to do the back, like on first playthroughs, that I went out of my way to like find a cheese or to find like an easy way to deal with them. Like on the first playthrough, I got a backstab off mainly because I rolled the wrong direction. Instead of rolling away, I rolled into him, in like his little charge thingy or whatever it is. And then I was just in the position that I could get that backstab off, and I noticed like, oh, okay, that's quite easy to do. Can I do that on subsequent attempts? And I could and I couldn't. I couldn't find the right rhythm to go backstab, backstab, backstab. But as time progressed, I got better in it, and I could do like 2 or 3 backstabs in a row. Like I don't have it down to a science, but honestly, it is an easy way, and I found it by accident. Like I didn't watch anything of the game before I bought it and before I started playing it. I never do for any of the Souls games because I don't want my experience tainted by it. And then I'm saying that on my first playthrough of the game, without prior knowledge of the game whatsoever, I found Abyss Watchers to be susceptible to backstabs and made the fight more manageable for me.
Yeah, I mean, as we go along, I think we're sort of moving into the tougher games now, with next week being, I assume, Bloodborne and Sekiro.
Hmm.
I'd like to see the consistency you exhibit in your takes, because I'm struggling to see it. Sometimes you say the boss is too easy and that's a pro. Other times you say the boss is too easy and that's why it's rubbish. So I'm not sure where you stand on difficulty. I mean, a ton of the bosses we discussed last week were absolute crap in terms of difficulty, but you put them in A tier. So yeah, I think B tier is piled for Abyss Watchers, but hey, we've got other bosses to talk about.
Yeah.
At least tell me it's a B plus. At the very least,
Oh yeah. I'll give it a B plus. Absolutely.
top of the B, no exception. Wait until the other takes, and then we're like, well, no.
Yeah. I mean,
Meanwhile, Shig is trying to convince me the Last Giant is better than the Abyss Watchers.
I don't think that's what he's saying. He's saying his reaction is similar.
I mean, I don't know. I think he's trying to make a loose case for it. If
no,
that's the
he's
case,
not. He's not.
No,
Lord above, help us.
no. Yeah, no, not at all. Exactly. I'm pretty sure he'd have him high A or low S, same sort of thing, or even S. I keep it
Anyway,
S.
Which was A last shine was C on your list. Fair enough.
yeah. Anyway, we move on because I think we're going to have a lot of disagreement in DS.
Oh yeah.
That's what you want.
Yeah. After today, Doc will never speak to me again. Aldrich. I'm gonna let you guys go first because mine is gonna be like the thing that's definitely gonna be discussed later on.
Yeah, Aldrich for me is a C tier boss personally. Um, so two things. One, I really like the lore of Aldrich as, the devourer of Gwendolyn and, and others. I love that he is in Ornstein and Smau's arena, which by the way was lost on me when I first played DS3, because DS3 was my first FromSoft game. But really kind of dawned on me when I replayed it after having played DS1. So, going back through the last stretch of Anor Londo and fighting him in Ornstein and Smau's arena, I thought was a really wonderful allusion to that game. But the fight itself leaves so much to be desired. I don't like his design as essentially a blobby figure with Gwendolyn sort of top. I don't like the rain that he does with the arrows, which I find to be quite tricky to dodge and very destructive in terms of your HP bar. I don't like that When you finally start to get some damage, he either teleports away or there's fire-related problems that you need to deal with. Yeah, it's just, a boss that has wonderful lore going for it and a wonderful kind of throwback to DS1, but it's really let down by mechanics. So C tier for me.
For me, I think this one had potential. You take away the arrow rain, and it improves it greatly. There's still the magic spammy. The teleporting away, I don't hate it as much in this fight as I do in other fights because it's very predictable to know where he's gonna go. It's the same all the time, and it's not even from like knowing it after a lot of time. It just doesn't take that much time to figure out what he's doing. So you figure out pretty quickly where he's gonna be, so you can chase it down. The arena's not that big, so it's not a problem. Like I said, the arrow rain is dumb. Once you learn it, it's pretty easy to avoid. But in a first playthrough, it's death basically. The pillars are actually, as much as they helped in DS1, they harm in this one. Just getting in your way when you're trying to attack, or just getting you stuck in a bad spot, especially in phase 2 with the fire. So I would also have to put this one like low C, but that being said, I do enjoy the fight now that I know how to fight it. But yeah, I'd have to put it as a low C. But now fighting it, it's a B for me. But I'd have to put it, if I'm ranking it, it's a low C.
Okay. I agree. It's C. Nice callback to Orlando again, like where you fight him. Great that you're doing it like in that room. Like the first time I came across it, and I kind of felt like, oh fuck, what did they do to Orlando? But like thematically and like from a perspective from lore, it makes sense what happened to Orlando. And yeah, you fight him in that arena. I do feel like that, like for fighting him in the ONS arena, like they could have put a better boss in there. And Aldrich is just, he's just bullshit. Like I love the design. Like yeah, I kind of like the design. Like it's not the best design in the game, but I do kind of like it. The lore about him is amazing. Even if you take like the stories of the Adri and Henry, your soon to be wife or whatever.
Yeah, Henry.
Yeah, if you take that into account as well, it just ramps up the significance of Aldrich. But as Killah and Doc both point out, like his moveset is just so god awful. Like why they put in that fucking arrow rain is beyond me. Like that's just a horrible move. His little lights that he kind of summons. In the beginning of the fight, he actually had to summon them. Or like the further in the fight, he just summons them automatically when he teleports. I do like the fact that he has the attack of the life hunt sight. Because that also like makes sense from a lore standpoint. But yeah, it's not an enjoyable fight, but it's also like not the worst fight in the game. So yeah, for me, it's going into C.
Side note, I thought it was a very poignant moment when you approach the arena from the side and see the giant blacksmith lying dead there. I thought that was very, very beautiful.
That was from me killing him on SL1.
I thought that was one of the most moving moments in all of Dark Souls for me. I thought that was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, I can see that. Like honestly, when because as you point out, like Doc, you haven't had like that build. Well, you haven't played DS1 before that. Like I have, and I when I first came to Enorlando, I was like, oh god, they recycled another area. Um, and then like coming across like the giant blacksmith cars was just like, oh my god, what did they do to my boy? No, it was like, yeah, it did like it was impactful, yeah. But honestly, I will say this, and then I think maybe like at some point we might do like an area tier list or something if that's something you guys are interested in. Um, I do feel that they could have done more with the area. Like I would have loved exploring more of Anor Londo, like it is right there.
I think they did well with it. I don't think they should have done any more. It's cool you come out the back way that you hadn't been to before, or just like the side. I think that was cool, and then the callback was cool. The way it looked, just very decrepit, and yeah, no, I really liked what they did. I really
Yeah,
liked
and
the aesthetic of Aldrich, which I didn't touch on, but yeah.
I think that was also because of the law. I mean, what they're trying to say essentially is that very little of that Anor Londo we went through, what is thousands and thousands of years ago,
Mm.
is now left, and I think that was very poignant and by FromSoft standards, a very beautifully kind of like poetic moment. That's why I love DS3 because I think it has such a finality to it throughout. Everywhere you go, you get the sense that the world is ending, and I think that was one of those iconic moments where you see that a great city of the past, where really the entire Dark Souls universe began as Gwyn's kingdom, if you will,
Mm.
is now no longer standing, and has been in fact replaced by a new kingdom down below in Irithyll.
Mm.
So I actually really like that.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, Ancient Wyvern.
Sheep's got it.
Sheep's got it. F.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
I would
D,
give
I
it
guess,
an
since there's no F, but it's
Yeah.
very bad.
Yeah, I would probably give it a D. I want to give it some consideration for them again, trying something new out with essentially a boss that is, an obstacle course, if you will. But yeah, it's a very long obstacle course. I don't think it's particularly intuitive that that's the way you're supposed to do it. And
Yeah.
the enemies along the obstacle course are a real menace. So I think I would give it a D.
Yeah, I would give it an F. I honestly didn't even consider that. I'm very stubborn. I didn't even think of it as a possibility that you could get by, so I just fought him. And it's brutal. It's awful. It's also really bad that you can miss that plunging attack.
Yeah. That was one of the things that I wanna. Yeah. It was
To
one of
be
the,
fair, if you miss that plunging attack, when you land, you must feel like the biggest loser on the planet after dropping with
It didn't
such
feel
an
great.
impact.
It didn't feel great, Doc.
Yeah, yeah. I agree there with Killah. Like I've actually, because in order to get that, you actually have to jump. And have to jump at the right time. Like not when he's doing his whole breath attack, because his head then goes up and you can't miss him even easier. Um, and I kind of agree with what Sheep is saying, that it's not even a boss; it's an area with a hell bar. Um, like on the first playthrough, I was like fighting him straight up, just like Killah did, because I just thought like, oh, it's another it's another dragon fight. We've been taught over these 3 previous games how to deal with dragons. Um,
Well, you haven't been because you didn't know how to fight Sin.
uh, um, then like I at a certain point like I needed a safe spot somewhere to go heal, and I run into like that side entrance, and it's like, oh wait, what the fuck is this? First of all, there's enemies here, and it looks like this route actually goes quite far in, and you just start exploring there, and you're like, oh okay, so this is how you're actually meant to do this, um, and it just takes away so much of what the boss could have been. Like I feel that if you fight him straight up, it's a much more enjoyable boss fight. Like it just, I mean, it is another like okay, it's another dragon. Fine, we will deal with this guy. And then the fact, as we've said, like that you can miss the fucking plunging attack. Like honestly, that should have been an automatic thing. It should have been scripted into the game. It should have been in the fucking code. That once you do that, once you get up there, once you just drop down, it's just a win. The fact that you can miss that is such utter fucking bullshit. And he just belongs in D tier.
Who's next?
Champion Gundyr.
Ooh, the champ.
Yeah.
I love the champ. The champ is one of my favorite FromSoft bosses of all time. I had him in my top 10 FromSoft bosses of all time until very recently. So I think he's still in the top 15. So he's a no-brainer S tier for me. I normally am not a big fan of repeating the same boss model or boss arena in a game, but that is one of the rare times they did it so well, and it just completely takes you off guard when you see that it's not the same Gundyr from the tutorial. I love the lore of the area that you fight him in. I love his lore as well. His moves are cool. And I think when he goes red and he really starts to get aggressive, the fight just has a frenetic energy to it that I really enjoy. So yeah, for me, he is an iconic DS3 boss. Straight up S tier.
Yeah, agree. The lower side of S, because from what I remember, he can get in some loops that are a little annoying. But I am looking forward to learning him again. But yeah, that whole area was really cool. Seeing him again and kind of having that same. You fought him before and it was kind of tough, but now you know. And then oh wait, no, you don't because he's different. He's more aggressive. That was pretty cool. Tough, but seemed fair. Like I said, just sometimes he could get a little spammy with his charge.
Quick addition, I'm not the best parier in DS3 by any means. I find DS3 to actually be one of the hardest games to parry in the FromSoft catalog personally. But I love getting a parry off on Champion Gundyr. It just feels immensely satisfying. So that's a little side pro for the boss as well.
Yeah. A tier. Like, yeah, you start an area and you're in, back in the tutorial area basically. Um, and, you get to that arena and you're like, okay, yeah, it's this guy again. We've dealt with him before. We can do that. But then it turns out, it's the. I mean, we've said this before about like some of the other games. It is like the prime version of him. So lore wise, it's great. Um, like he is quicker than he is like in the tutorial area. He has a slightly more diverse moveset. Um, but I didn't find him that enjoyable or that special or that diverse compared to IDEX. Um, yeah, it's just like it was the tutorial fight again, but with extra steps. And I didn't really enjoy that too much. Like I still think like um, we will talk about IDEX later, but to me it is just basically the same fight and lore wise it is great. I don't think that Untainted Graves um, did a well enough job of showing like, okay, now you're in the past, um, and like that, and then the fact that you get like the champion version of IDEX, um, like yeah, it's a nice moment, but like I think that if they I don't know, if they explain it a little bit more, like because I don't know how to put this. Um, like the fact that you are in the past and this is like its prime version, it's made clear by the boss fight basically. But then again, you could be like, oh, Gundyr could be like a last name, and these are just two separate entities who basically or from like the same order. The fact that it's basically the same guy, I felt wasn't really that obvious, and I feel like the game lost something in translating that to the player.
I mean, that's the usual FromSoft issue of poor storytelling, personally, from my perspective. I don't think they're very good at conveying character backstories or lore, and unless you're a fanatic reader of item descriptions, which I understand that most people aren't. To me, it was clear that he was champion Gundyr. Sorry, he was Udex Gundyr in the past because I had been following along item descriptions. I also think that filing Shrine right after makes that quite apparent with the Black Knight.
Okay, this is a really bad idea, but
the merchant
I'm already here, so
is considerably younger.
Here we fucking go.
Has dialogue that indicates that this is a
Extra
different time
noses
period.
punches on you, ooh, you're so warm. Couldn't help but notice your bones from across the floor. Noses your Nicky wakey till they were till they hee. Unzips your baggiest pants, oh baby, you so musky. Take me home, pet me and make me yours, and don't forget to stuff me. See me like my little baby tail for your bulgy wulgy. Kisses and lickies your neck. I hope daddy likes you, nuzzles and wuzzles your chest. I be getting thirsty. Hey, I got a little itch. You think you can help me? Only 7 inches long. Ooh, please adopt me. Pause on your butt as I lick my lips. Ooh, punish me, please. Gotta hit him with this furry shit.
I think it's really cool that the fight itself shows you this is the guy when he was at his peak. So yeah, I personally enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah.
It's Gundyr's fault we got Radon. It's all because you love Gundyr so much.
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
I'm
So-
not gonna debate an A tier. I think A tier is still,
Yeah.
within the realm of reasonable.
Yeah, I just think he doesn't do enough difference from Udex to basically be like, oh, it's so much better than he is.
Well, when they did that with Radon, you didn't like that either.
Yeah, but Radon was a completely different fight.
Yeah.
Like that, there's a
You
huge
don't
difference.
think you're gonna give Radon an S tier either when it
It-
comes to Promise Consort.
Well, no, I mean, consort is not gonna be S tier for me.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's not gonna be like I think B, but
I don't even think you're gonna give Genichiro S tier when you fight him again.
oh, all Sekiro bosses are F.
Yeah, I'm just asking for consistency, bro.
Nah, but like the in comparison, because I mean you've now brought this up. Like I think that like you can see like the champion Gundyr and the IDEX or UDEX or whatever you want to call them. Like those two fights are distinctively the same. I don't think you can say that about Consort Radahn and Star Scourge Radahn.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get that, and you're leveling that as a criticism of Gundyr, that, it's too similar.
Yeah.
But then what I'm saying is that, yes, Genichiro and Radahn are not too similar, but I know you're not going to give them an S tier either.
Well, no, but it's not because they're the prime version. Like that's not the like that's not the defining factor here. Like
Yeah, well, let's move on. I mean, A tier and
Yeah.
S tier is not distant enough to merit an extended debate.
The wolf, the great wolf, and the grave tender.
That's an F for me.
It's probably a D or a D minus for me. I hate getting down to this boss because that bronze section still gives me deep PTSD. The boss itself is such an embarrassment. It's a real shame that, in a DLC with 2 bosses, that is one of them. What the hell were they thinking? Yeah, the only reason why it's not F for me is that, it's not a broken boss in any way. It functions fine. It's just, there's nothing, to look forward to or enjoyable about it.
Just keep in mind, guys, that we only have like up until D tier here. So, like, if you're saying F, then do you mean like D? And when you're saying D, do you mean like C? Or are you like, okay, it still belongs like in the lowest category here?
For me,
part of D.
Yeah, that would be an F. Yeah, but this, for me is a D or a D minus.
All right. I completely agree. I will have to say, like, the branch section, I feel that it's only a problem like on the first playthrough or maybe like even a second, when you don't immediately like know where to drop down to avoid everything. Like if you want to really explore the branches, I think like that there is a very easy way to avoid everything that goes on the branches, but it's still not very enjoyable. And the fight itself is just like it's such a horrible fight. You get the little wolves first. You kill the little wolves. You get like the guy himself. And then halfway through his hellbore, he gets the big wolf, and it's just such a hassle. It's such a bullshit fight. Yeah, absolutely low bottom D tier.
Actually, I'll give it D plus for 2 quick sort of small pros. One, if I recall, if you fight the big wolf earlier in the first area of the DLC, you can actually have it spawn with like lesser HP in the boss fight. Killah, is that true? I vaguely remember that being true.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought it was actually 2 different wolves.
I ignored the wolf.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember that being true, but somebody in chat with more knowledge can fact check that. But I vaguely remember that if you fight the big wolf up above in the first area, it runs away after you take off like half its HP bar, and then when it comes up in the boss fight, it has lesser HP, I think. And then the second thing that I kind of think is funny is when the grave tender like parries you. I find that pretty hilarious. Because it just comes out of nowhere and takes you by surprise, and I always chuckle when that happens. So yeah, I'll give it a D plus.
Honestly, I've always hated it that like bosses and NPCs in the FromSoft games can parry. Like with Grave Tender, it's horrendous. With the guy that in Elden Ring that guards the way up to Renala, it's a fucking hassle. Like I mean, he's easy enough to like ignore basically if you can quit out fast enough. But I'm not able to parry. Why should they be? Fuck them. Yeah, I don't like parrying of like NPC type enemies in FromSoft. They always also tend to do a lot more damage on the repos than we can do.
Probably true. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just find it kind of funny that that's something that he's able to do. But yeah, I think we're in agreement. It's a D tier boss.
Yeah. Let's just quickly check. Okay, nobody in chat has said anything about like the boss, the wolf coming in with less HP. So I'm not sure, Doc. I also like usually avoid the big wolf.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that being the case, but it has been a while for me.
Mm. Yeah. Crystal Sage.
Caleb's hardest boss in DS3, apparently. He says he died to Crystal Sage over 30 times or something.
It can happen pretty easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how, because, again, DS3 was my first FromSoft game, and I think I first tried him the first time, and I've never died to him on subsequent playthroughs as well, but Caleb had a really rough go. As a boss, probably C+, inoffensive, boring, not anything that puts me off necessarily, but nothing that excites me either. I do find it a little bit annoying that he pops up in the Grand Archives later as well, but I'm not gonna bash the boss for that. Yeah, I think C+ is about that.
Yeah, C is probably good. It's annoying. He does too much damage in his later phases when all of them, you can get hit by all of them at the same time, which is a little bit ridiculous. It's kind of, if you guess right, then the fight's a joke, which is what happened on my first playthrough. I just guessed right and killed him pretty quickly. But I have got on another run, I forget what I was doing, but I just didn't have as much damage and wasn't guessing right. And yeah, it's pretty frustrating when you're just getting comboed by 4 different people hitting you with magic at once. Looks cool. That's pretty much it. I don't necessarily like the moves, but they do all look cool. The teleport, yeah. Maybe there's
like
a
the
little too
arena.
many of them. The
Arena's
arena's
cool.
good. The whole look of the fight is fine. It's just the mechanics behind it I'm not crazy about. But the aesthetics I do like. I'd give it like a low C.
Yeah. Yeah. Agree. Like it is a fight you can like easily die to, like if you're not careful there, like with the clones. Also, like the run up there is not fun. And like it's not, yeah, it's not a particularly memorable fight. And like it guards the cathedral, which is like arguably like one of the better areas of Dark Souls 3. And I kind of wished there was more to Crystal Sage, that for guarding such an area, that there was just more to him.
Yeah, I would only add that I don't think they do mage bosses very well in general. FromSoft, I can't really think of many mages they've done too well.
False idol.
Yeah, he doesn't have one they did well. It's a good point. That one's even worse. And yeah, Nico, they do have different colors, but sometimes there's not enough time to even see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately for me, and you can call it skishy if you like, I'm colorblind, so that would be lost on me.
Yeah.
No,
Renala, it's just a little bit annoying.
Yeah, Rolana and Renala are the only good magic boss, but I mean Rolana isn't really a magic boss. Yeah, okay. Renala is a good magic boss. phase
I don't
one
want to
isn't.
get into
phase two is.
Renala right now, but yeah, we'll get into a tangent.
Yeah.
I feel like.
But yeah, low C tier.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Our big ass 3.
First, roasted grainwood.
Yep.
Visually, very compelling boss. Very cool arena when you approach it first, and then also very cool when it shatters. I was initially really shocked when it happened to me. I thought it was some sort of game-breaking glitch, and I'd fallen through the map or something. But then found out that it was actually intentional. But the fight itself is very boring. Nothing to write home about. You know, it's essentially you trying to find an opening to the egg sacs and then clapping away at them while he flounders about a bit and gets rid of the ads in the arena. Second phase is a little bit even more tedious because he has the grab attack that you have to kind of keep an eye out for, and that often comes from off screen. But yeah, overall, just a very mid boss, probably a C plus for me. One pro also that I want to highlight is that he drops one of the best weapons in the game, the Hollow Slayer Greatsword. So I consider that a little bonus for fighting him. I do like that.
Like one of the best early game weapons. I wouldn't say it still ends up in endgame.
I mean, that 20% damage against follows, I feel like, is very useful throughout DS3, and I've finished entire playthroughs with it, so I really like that weapon personally. I like the moveset a lot.
Yeah, for me, I don't like this boss. Yeah, it's a gimmick. I don't like the gimmick. The breaking out the floor is pretty cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't like the idea of having to hit those. I don't like its moveset. I don't like that the other hollows are in it. This one would be like a high D, low C, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably a D. I don't find any like avoiding any of his attacks interesting.
Yeah.
I might actually bump it up to a B minus just because I put Crystal Sage at C plus, and Crystal Sage doesn't have, you know, any interesting dynamic to his fight with the arena collapsing or anything like that, and doesn't drop anything useful either. So B minus.
Yeah, no slapping Nico, only cradling.
I'm with Killah on this one. Like high D, low C. Yeah, the mechanic of breaking the floor, it is pretty cool. Like the first time it happens, it's like, oh, what the fuck? And then you get that extra hand sprouting out. But like, I mean, at least the hand takes normal damage, just like the little bus sacks do, or the balls, or whatever you want to call them. But yeah, it's just the boss fights you have to do in order to be able to make boss weapons. Like that's the only reason I do him. If I didn't need the boss weapons or anything, I just leave him. Like I don't want to fight him. I don't enjoy fighting him. I do him for the boss weapons. Yeah.
I don't think you guys' takes are outrageous, so I think that's fair.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Crystal Sage, and I think Crystal Sage is in a good spot, and just Tree Balls is significantly worse than that. So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I definitely would
Danza?
rank Crystal Sage higher than Greatwood.
Dancer for me, or here, Duck goes first.
Doesn't matter who goes first. I'm just going last.
Yeah. Well, for me, Dancer is probably trying to think right now. There's not too much that's bad about her. Everything is very fair. It's difficult. Her damage is pretty reasonable. Does she have any outrageous attack? She has a couple attacks that are a little quick, but I don't know. I'd still put it like a high A, a low S. Really cool reveal. Really cool aesthetic. The way she moves is very different than almost everything else. Yeah, I'd put it low S.
Yeah, I'm kind of split between low S and A plus. I think I might go A plus because while I like everything Killah highlighted, and I really like her very kind of elegant dancer-esque moves, as well as the really dramatic way in which she, descends from the ceiling to initiate the fight. I think the arena is not the best. I don't like that it's a rectangular arena that is reasonably sort of unfairly narrow for a boss that has extremely wide swings, particularly in phase 2. And that also there's a fire threat or fire hazard in phase 2 within that arena. But outside of that, I really enjoy the fight. I honestly really look forward to it. And it's the fight that, the first time I played the game took me like 10 or 15 attempts to get through. But on every subsequent playthrough, I've first tried. And it's not because I think the boss has become easier, but it's because I feel so readable and well telegraphed that I feel like I have a mastery over it that, in my mind, makes the boss a very good one. So yeah, I would say A plus.
First of all, I want to say that to Glenn, like, thank you for remembering that because nobody else here fucking did. But yeah, it is a boss I unintentionally hit list, like, on I think a deadlist attempt, and I think it's the only boss in the S3 that I actually hit list out of any of the playthroughs. And then it is like what you guys are saying. It is an amazing moveset. It's an amazing reveal. I like the design. I like the way that you kind of summon her in. You kill the little lady on the chair. I just generally like the fight. The only thing that holds her back from an S tier for me is her the whole long ass combo. I think you guys know like what I'm talking about, like the whole wind up thing where she covers the entire arena basically if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And yeah, getting hit by one of those is just a death sentence. Like one hit in that combo, unless it's the last hit, fine, fair enough. But yeah, that's just an attack. Like it's so gracious to see. I mean, like from looks, it's just she radiance grace and flexibility of movement and everything. But yeah, I don't like that move. I don't like her popping it out. And yeah,
I don't know. I find that to be a fairly well telegraphed move. She does it right as the phase transitions, and then whenever she picks it out, I kind of know. My issue with it is actually a little bit different from you. I also know how to respond to it, which is basically flee and watch her, run out of energy with that. My issue with it is slightly different, which is that because of the shape of the arena and the narrow nature of it, if you're not in the right place, sometimes fleeing is a little bit tricky. You're just unable to get enough distance from the boss to avoid the attack. But otherwise, I don't find that to be a massive issue, personally.
yeah.
But I think we're in agreement.
Yeah.
She's a good boss.
Also, Doc, I do not want you to answer Nico's question. So yeah, I'm putting it ahead of Champion Gandir. Which brings us to Dark Eater Midir.
So I'll go on this one first because I can't. I've only fought Dark Eater Midir once. So I'm gonna give it an A because it felt really good to beat, but I don't rave about it like everybody else because I just feel like I didn't learn it enough, and it might be something that changes later. But to me, it would be like a low A, just because I didn't at the time when I did this, I didn't play it properly. I didn't go enough at the head. I was hitting body a lot, so I just think the experience wasn't as good. So I'd give it an A, but a lower A. But I don't think that's a fair assessment from my experience.
Yeah.
It's an S tier for me. Very high S tier at that. I cannot gush enough about this boss. I like the first time you see it on the bridge. I like when you have to beat it down into its arena. I like the lore of the boss as the eater of the abyss, so to speak, who has been over time corrupted by his very act of service. I love the arena. I love how you get to the arena. And I absolutely adore every bit of the fight. I think it is the one time they smashed a dragon boss out of the park. Did not have any scammy or cheesy moves. It is a boss that incentivizes aggressive upfront gameplay by means of forcing you to engage with its head because the damage output from clawing at its legs is significantly lower. All of its moves are very readable and interesting to deal with. Yeah, I mean, I run out of superlatives talking about Midir. Oh, by the way, Midir, for me, for my money, has one of the top 5 OSTs From has ever put out. On some days, I might put Midir's OST as number 1. On other days, I might have it at number 2 or 3. But yeah, that is another fantastic feature of the fight. So S tier for me.
Okay. Chaos is better than Midir.
Okay, like if you're not gonna take this seriously,
No, I mean it's not like it's Dark Eater Midir. Like I don't like the fights. Like I like the long build up it has because like as Doc points out, like he does have that there's two or three instances where you come across him before you get to the boss, or before you get to the actual arena, and that's kind of cool. But yeah, I don't like the boss fights. I don't like the fact that you just have to stay in front of him, have to like either dodge perfectly or just be killed.
So you're saying you don't like that you have to be good?
No, it's not about being good. Like, I mean, every Dark Souls game expects you to get good. Like, it's part of the game basically. But yeah, his design is okay. Like, I don't think it is that different from other dragon bosses design. The arena is just a big circular area in water. Also something that's been done before 1,000 times. Like it's like I'm willing to say it's a B tier, but like mid B. I don't
The
enjoy the
last
fight.
time I heard someone speak for so long and say nothing I agree with was when I heard Donald Trump in the debate, the first debate. I cannot believe anything you said there.
Also, the whole fight fought a bunch in water before. I think that's fought a bunch in water after.
Yeah, maybe not like in water, but it's just basically a big circular area. Like the water in the Midir fight doesn't really matter that much, does it?
I don't think so. It just looks cool. I like the look of the arena. Like honestly, the rating I gave it got higher because of the aesthetic. But I can recognize the fact that I didn't fight it properly, and that was on me. So yeah, I just let that, because like fight mechanics wise, to me it was probably a B. But again, I fought it incorrectly, so it wasn't enjoyable. But I can recognize that as being a flaw in how I approached it.
Yeah, I mean, Midir is considered one of the consensus S tier bosses of the FromSoft community, like Gael. I've never seen Midir end up with anything other than less than an S in polls. Even with Dragon Boss rankings, he always comes up as the best boss FromSoft have put out as a dragon. So yeah, I'm flabbergasted that this is a B for you. I feel like you're just bad at the fight, Ginge. That's all it is.
Because I don't enjoy a fight, I'm bad at the fight?
Yeah, I mean, just what you described. You said that his attacks are not telegraphed or easy to read.
I never said they weren't telegraphed.
You said they're not easy to read. That's the same thing. I mean,
I didn't
that's
say easy to
telegraphing.
read. I said it's either get hit, either dodge perfectly or die.
That's the DLC. That's all the DLCs. That was the Elden Ring DLC
yeah,
right
which
now.
is why I don't really like the DLC. The DS3 DLC, at least.
I mean, you are textbook describing Skishu. But that doesn't make it a bad boss. That just makes it a very challenging one. And trust me, I died to it plenty. I would say Midir before Melania was probably the hardest boss From put out. Until Melania popped up.
Orphan of Boss.
And he's probably still in the top 5. He's not too far off, you know.
And that's why I was hesitant with my rating. What Caleb points out is just the parallels between Midir and Bale, and I absolutely love Bale. So I know when I've only fought Midir the once, and like I said, I didn't do it properly. So I can recognize that he's probably almost definitely an S, but I can't really rank it that way because it wasn't my experience. But yeah, just the parallels between the two are what makes me know that I'm probably incorrect.
Even his boss weapon's amazing. That's another pro from Midir. That the katana you get for killing him is phenomenal.
But like both with Midir as well as Calamite, like once you get to them, like it's only gonna be good in New Game Plus. And yeah. But
I actually don't think that that's that bad because I think DS3 actually has one of the more balanced NG Plus cycles. I find DS3 NG Plus to be very manageable compared to DS1, which is a very steep increase in difficulty.
I kind of like, and this is another controversial take, but I kind of like Dark Souls 2 New Game Plus more.
Oh boy, Sheep is gonna cook you in chat now.
Yeah, but mainly because it does different things. Like, it doesn't just amp the difficulty. Like, there's more enemy, the enemy placement is slightly different. You know, in the boss arenas, there might be extra enemies, like in the Lost Sinner, in the Flexile Sentry.
I was about to say, you might not enjoy the game as much. Like, obviously, DS2 isn't everybody's favorite. And you might not even enjoy the DLC as much as you enjoy, the New Game Plus as much as you enjoy the other games. But the difference between the two experiences, like DS2, it makes it more different. It has more replayability.
Yeah.
Like, they add stuff, they did other things. I think they did the best with the NG Plus. That being said, I would rather play DS3 NG Plus, but I can recognize that DS2 did NG Plus better. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree there. Like, I would rather play like the Yeah, Dark Souls 3, New Game Plus, or Dark Souls 1, or even Demon Souls. But yeah, I mean, Dark Souls 2, they changed things, and then they did New Game Plus right.
Getting back to the bosses.
Yeah, it's not a matter of getting good or anything. It's just I don't enjoy fighting him. Like, I can kill him. Yeah, I can fucking kill him. Like, I'm good enough a player to kill Midir, but I don't enjoy doing it. Like, he's out of the DLC. Let me just check. Yeah, him and probably Gravetender, or the fights I tend to skip because I just don't enjoy those fights.
Yeah, I think it's just your playstyle and the way you approach dragon bosses. I've seen you fight the dragon bosses in Elden Ring too, and I don't think that style sits well with Midir and the dragon bosses since Midir.
Yeah, which is why I kind of adapt.
But,
I mean,
but that is how you fight them, and that's your prerogative. Yeah, I don't want to talk about Bale right now because we'll get to Bale when we get to Bale, but I still think Midir is the best dragon boss they've ever put out. And I would even get rid of that qualifier and say it's one of the best bosses they've put out because it's just a very iconic fight. Also, by the way, a lot of fun to fight in co-op, which is a nice add-on too. I literally have no criticisms of Midir.
Yeah, I mean,
but moving on.
I fight the bosses in Elden Ring one way, but I fight other bosses in a different way. Like every boss fight is different. Like, I mean, yeah, sure, in Elden Ring, you can't tackle its face or you can't just tackle its feet because its feet is still a valid thing to do in Elden Ring, whereas with Midir it isn't. So I fight Midir in a different way. I don't think it's fair comparing my fighting style in Elden Ring compared to the fighting style in DS3. And it's not a matter of like I adapt to the boss. Like, yeah, I'm as I think we all are. We are stuck. Well, not necessarily stuck, but we have a build that we will like to use, and we use that build. And then we adapt our builds to like the bosses to a certain extent. But I mean, I fight it head on. I go for the head. I go for where I need to do the damage. But I just do not enjoy that fight. Like, I don't enjoy. I never did. I never will, probably. I can see where, from a lore standpoint, he's a good boss. Like I said, I enjoyed the build up to getting to him. But yeah, that's it. Like, his design is basically any other boss in the game. Like, with some any other dragon, they're just like small differences. But yeah, it's just maybe it's just not my type of fight. But I just don't like fighting Midir, and I think he has some like the whole breath attack or whatever, the sick saggy beam out of his mouth. I don't think his moves are that. Like, his moves are visually stunning. Like, his moves are stunning. Some of them. But I just don't think that makes a good boss fight. Spectacle is not why I play these boss fights.
Yeah, we're just not gonna agree. I don't think we're gonna agree, and I should also say that I think Killah, you just need to revisit the fight. I feel like you would definitely come on the S tier camp.
And that's what I'm positive of it, but I just don't feel right giving it an S when that wasn't my experience with it. But watching other people fight it as well, it's if I was standing in front of him, going for the head attacks and everything, it's just I fought it completely incorrectly. I was standing under him and getting pissed off that I was getting stomped on and doing no damage. and I couldn't seem to get the head. So I'm sure it'll move up on subsequent playthroughs or when learning hit lists.
Do you do actually no damage to him when you attack his feet and everything? It's
You
been a
don't
while
do a
since
lot. You do very shitty damage. It's
Alright.
not like Freya, but you
Alright,
don't
yeah.
do good damage.
That was kind of
He
what I
also has
was
a lot of
thinking.
moves that are designed to keep you off his feet, like his tail swipe or
Yeah.
sudden dash. The game very actively says to you, "This is you can do this, but this is going to be a stupid way of doing this."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they became pretty clear because like I would go like for the safe spot first, like on the first attempt, like I would have gone for the safe for what I consider safe spot because that's basically what it's always been. You go for the ankles and you try to get him, and then I noticed like the damage is just abysmal. And I would then went like for the head, which is a major improvement. But yeah, the game does kind of teach you there that this is not like your ordinary your ordinary dragon fight where you just hack away any part of him and you do like the same amount of damage. I do think the game basically is like what's just does teach you how to fight Midir a different way than what you're used to.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Deacons of the Deep.
Deacons is a very boring fight. I like the arena quite a lot, and I like the lore surrounding the boss, but the fight itself is a bit of a chore. It's not offensive in any way, so I'd probably say C plus. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably be about the same. It was almost even a B minus for me, just because of my build. I had the great sword, and I was using it like crowd control, so it was actually pretty fun going in there and just demoing everybody. And it still made it difficult enough that like I'd still get hit because I wasn't very high level, but yeah, it wasn't terribly offensive. Since then, it's a fucking chore and I hate it. So I'd probably keep it in C. It's not overly offensive, but yeah, I'd say on first playthrough it was like a B minus, but I'd have it at just a solid C.
And where would you guys then put it? Like, would you put it ahead of Aldrich, after Crystal Sage, between the two? What are you guys thinking there?
I'd put it under those two.
I think so as well, because at least Aldrich and Crystal Sage have some fun moments. I don't think that Deacons has very many of those, but yeah, I'd probably put them at the end of the line.
Yeah, I just want to change one thing, and I would put them between the two. Like it's like it's a fight you have to do in order to progress the story. And then the thing I kind of like about it, and it's like a stupid minor thing, but it's the way they kind of appear. That you can have like a couple of hits off there, thin the hurt a little bit more, like that they just don't just pop out of nowhere basically with like a cutscene or something. That you can have like a couple of openings there as well. But yeah, it's just basically like it's a DPS check. How fast can you call the hurt? But I kind of still like the design a little bit of like the actual Pope. But yeah, that's about it. Like I would put it like I enjoy fighting Crystal Sage less than I enjoy fighting Deacons. So there, guys, we don't disagree on everything.
We're gonna disagree on the next one, and I already know it.
Yeah, Demon Princess.
So for me, Demon Princess is the best duo or multiple target fight FromSoft have ever put out.
Oh my fucking god.
It's not even close. I don't even think it's close. Because who are the other contenders? You've got
Owen fucking S!
ONS, I told you last week, I don't rate them particularly high. I think that nostalgia allows you to write off a bunch of things. And anyway, ONS on their spiciest day can't lace Demon Princess boots with how much complexity there is to Demon Princess as a boss fight. Let me start from the top. I love the way you approach the arena. Dropping down that far deep is super cool. Then at the end, you fall into what is the old, was it the old filing shrine, right, from DS1?
Yeah.
Which I think is a wonderful, wonderful bit. The fact that you are fighting the very last of the demons, an entire species, and you're about to put them to extinction through that fight, very cool, very DS3, and that sort of finality thing that it does as a game. The fight, I love. I think first phase is the one time they genuinely got the separation and balance between multiple targets right. Like, you never feel ganked in that fight. You are always in control, able to space the two out and deal with one while keeping a clear eye on the other. I love their moves. I love the dodges that you can do to avoid certain attacks. I really love the fact that what shape the Demon Prince takes in phase 2 is contingent on which of the two first phase demons you take out first. I love in the second phase the drama of it, like it's a super, cinematic and spectacular fight with the flying around, the various different kind of attacks that rain down on you. I love the music, which I think is brilliant. Yeah, it's a phenomenal fight. It would definitely sit very comfortably in my top 20 FromSoft fights. And as far as duo bosses are concerned, I don't even think it's particularly close in terms of them being the very best. So S2.
Yeah, for me, my last experience with them was SL1. I don't think I got by them because I started doing hitless before I finished that run. But yeah, no, it was a lot of the stuff Doc named is true. They separate their aggro pretty well, and it's enough. So if you just dealt with the first phase princes on their own, it would be too easy. So I think them throwing in that range stuff to kind of keep you honest makes it a lot better. And their aggro link is very fair. My damage was shit, so they did seem too tanky for me. But again, that was SL1, and it wasn't even with meta builds. It was kind of just making it up. But yeah, phase 2, fantastic. I'd have it high A, low S.
One more thing I want to highlight is it's super fun in co-op too. I love taking patches down to fight them. I love taking Gael down to fight them. It's a lot of fun to fight with a summon too if you're not doing it solo, and solo is brilliant as well.
Aren't you always shitting on me for taking summons into boss fights?
I mean, I played DS3 3 times. I've tried, various kind of configurations because I love the game. I think it's the best game. I've fought them solo, but I've also taken summons to see what it's like.
Yeah. More enjoyable than Midir, less so than Abyss Watchers. They're mid-B tier for me. I don't like phase 1. I don't think it's a good duo fight. like um I'm thinking how yeah, I just the fact that they both have those like the effects, like don't they do like poison or toxic or something?
Yes, they do, but I
A
mean,
very telegraphed attack.
yep,
Yeah.
very hard to actually get that propped on you.
I didn't really experience like that they're I mean they're easy enough to separate because one does always stay in the background while the other one attacks you. It's just it's annoying to me that they kinda switch that around. Like it's basically just a bell of attrition. Um and yeah, it's just like when you get hit you need to heal at that point. Like that there's like they hit quite hard. Um So it's basically just a bell of attrition in the form of a soft DPS check as well. You know, how fast can you kill these two guys? Um, you know, but remember to switch aggro all the fucking time. I mean, not all the time because it doesn't happen that often, but you know, um, like to me, it would be better if they like. Fair enough that they split their aggro, like that one stays away, but I want to take this guy down. Like, I don't want to. I think that would have been a better way to do it. Like, that one stays away, and then you can choose to switch your target. Um, but, you know, then you get transition into phase 2. And the Demon Prince himself, I will give him the credit. Like I enjoy the fact that it really depends on which boss you take down. Well, which of the two you take down first, um, to see like what kind of fight you're in for. Um, but yeah, phase 2 is just abysmal. He has some I mean, not abysmal, but it's just not fun. Like he has some bullshit AOE moves. Um, he is tanky as fuck. He hits like a motherfucker. Um, like okay, maybe also like the fact that the last time I fought him was with the bow run. Maybe that's coloring this a bit, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's a good duo fight. I don't think it's a good solo fight. It is just basically a new jacket for ONS because it literally does everything that ONS does. And I just nope. I'll give them the credit. It is fun arena. The fact that it is like the DS1 Firelink Shrine, fun, great. I kind of like that. The little throwbacks that DS3 did. But other than that, nope.
They're very different. The only similarities they share with ONS is that there's two of them, and in phase 2, the one is just a bigger version of the other.
Yeah, I mean, you said so many things I disagree with there that I can't even keep track of them. And I almost feel it's pointless to respond back. But yeah, the ONS comparison to me is not accurate. Other than as Killah pointed out, there's two enemies and they kind of switch aggro depending on who you're engaging with. And I actually think they do that better than ONS because ONS, you know, you can sometimes be doing something and then Ornstein says, hey, you know what, let me just zip across the arena and clip your ass. Or, you know, there's some fucking jank hitbox that comes into play and you get clipped by something you didn't see coming. I don't think Demon Princess does that. Demon Princess is a very, very demanding and difficult boss, but it's a very fair boss in my opinion.
I don't know. I do feel um that SNAS is that sorry, I was just reading SNAS comment as well. Like I do feel that ONS is the better fight between the two. Like, I just don't enjoy Demon Princes as much as I enjoy fighting ONS. And the fact is, I like Snazzy Point said that ONS is more iconic than good. Yeah, ONS has some jank in it. And it's an iconic fight. But I don't think anyone, when they say iconic duo fights in FromSoft, is gonna see Demon Princes. Like, Demon Princes is nowhere on the scale of ONS.
I don't agree with that either. I mean, I've seen tons of polls. I follow YouTube FromSoft creators a lot. They do loads of polls, and usually Demon Princess ranks very, very highly on duo bosses. Depends on who the creator is, but they're always in direct competition with ONS, and I feel like the divide there comes from nostalgia-laden players like yourself who are pro ONS, and then players like me who don't have that sort of attachment to DS1 who will say Demon Princess, but it's always a direct fight between them. I don't think there's ever any, debate that's taken place where, Demon Princess isn't even brought up, for example.
I will already say this. I think Godskin Duo is better than Demon Princess.
That's something you said. That's a thing you've just said.
Yeah, we have to live with that turd that you just dropped in the room.
Yeah. So I personally like ONS after having run it hitless, but it's still janky. I haven't run Demon Prince's hitless, so I'll see. But just what I remember, I did fight them a lot because I was dying to them a lot on the SL1 run. But yeah, phase 2 of ONS is not even it's not even a thing. You're just winning. You've won. It's over. Phase 2 is laughable.
I think that kind of depends
you have. That being said, ONS, I do enjoy the fight. I enjoy it more when there's both of them, but there's still that jank to it. For me personally, I'd put them close to each other, but I still need more experience with Demon Princes.
Yeah, I mean, I think Spec hit the nail on the head with something he said, a couple of minutes ago. He basically said that, ONS is a great fight, particularly by DS1 standards. But when you look at where the world has gone since, and the complexity that Demon Princess has as a boss fight, it's just not even an apples-to-apples comparison. It's like, arguing that a 2000s Toyota Camry is better than a car that released this year from Toyota. They're just not the same in any way. I mean, yeah, they move, and yeah, they take you from point A to point B, but the car today is significantly more laden with features and interesting than the car of 2001 or 2. So, yeah, I tend to agree with Spectrum, but again, I know we're not going to agree on this.
Yeah, and I think that though, in the end, the Toyota from the mid-90s will have more kilometers and will break down less than the new Toyota.
Well, judging from your fighting of Demon Princes, you haven't broken them down yet. You avoided them on your deadless.
I haven't really done much deadless in DS3.
We remember the one run you did, Ginge. We remember that run.
Yeah, I tried it, and I was like, nope.
But anyway,
I don't have the experience with DS3. Like, DS3 is the game I played the least. So I'm actually playing through it a couple of times offline, off stream, just to like see and check stuff out. Like, I'm actually doing that, so yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, we're not going to agree. So we might as well move on.
Wait, where is he putting it? Where are you putting it?
Between Abyss Watchers and Midir.
Okay. At least by Ginge's standards, it wasn't. I did air quotes when I said standards. It wasn't. You guys couldn't see it.
Yeah, and then and Shake the FromSoft game That is the 86 Toyota Corolla is Dark Souls 1. Simple as that. Dragon Slayer armor.
Dragon Slayer armor for me, had it been just Dragon Slayer armor, it would have been an S tier contender because I really enjoy the fight. I really like the soundtrack. I really like the lore. I really like the visuals of it. And I really like how you have to fight it. You have to sort of be up close, personal, time your dodges, find the right opening. Because the shield is so large and blocks so much that it's not a scammable boss. I do think it's let down by the Chaos Butterflies, I believe they're called. Basically, those butterflies that spray nonsense across your screen in the second phase that does a lot of damage. I still think that is mitigated by the fact that, you know, if you fight him closest to the fountain in the arena, the Chaos Butterfly stuff is basically meaningless and doesn't really bother you. But that is still an annoyance, so I'd probably say A plus for me. Underrated, very good fight. Also, his weapon is spectacular and a lot of fun to play with when you kill him.
Yeah, same sort of thing. I think him alone is very fun. The butterflies kind of ruin it. That said, apparently there is an audio cue to them, like you can distinguish them by the audio cue. I hadn't figured that out yet because normally you end it before then. But yeah, I would have to put him. Same sort of thing. He'd be a contender for S, but probably like an A minus with the butterflies. A minus, B plus, but I think I'd have him at the A.
Okay, maybe controversial here again. But I agree with you guys.
Oh, there you go.
A minus, B plus. Like it's a good enough fight. It's a solid fight. It's like it doesn't do that much different from your standard armored enemy, but it's just different enough to, you know, make you be on guard. Also, as Doc points out, like the weapon he drops, I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think it has the highest AR in the game, fully upgraded.
It might, because lightning damage is very OP in PS3.
Yeah, it's either that or like the cleaver from Yorm. I'm not 100% sure. One of those two is like the highest AR. But yeah, it does enough things differently to stand out between armor bosses, but not enough to make it like a high A or an S tier for me. In regards to the butterflies, and I think that they're called pilgrim butterflies. I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Pilgrim butterflies, yeah.
Yeah. Like I never really saw them as that much of an issue. Like maybe it's just the timing of the attacks, but I always kind of seem to be rolling away from the boss, rolling into the boss when they do their little attacks. So yeah, iframes for the win there, I guess. But yeah, I never find that the butterflies too taxing to deal with. I just it's a solid fight. Yeah. I'm gonna put him after Champion Gundyr.
Also, some really cool strafes you can do with him.
Yes, yes. I find fighting him very satisfying. It makes me feel like I've mastered the timings in DS3 because he has a very like classic moveset to test you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't actually have to talk about Halflight, right?
I don't know. I kind of want to address dunk buys.
Do you like touching shit?
Yeah, because I'm
Yeah.
listening to both of
Scatman.
yours opinion on these good bosses, so yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's I honestly didn't have that much trouble with it on my first playthrough, but it just wasn't enjoyable.
Mm.
I'd put
Yeah.
it D. I don't have much
Wait.
to say about him.
Did you fight the NPC or did you fight another player?
I fought the NPC.
Okay.
You can't go by the player because you're always going to get wildly different things. So
Yeah.
for these, I always judge it on the NPC.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, I might be more generous. I'll give it a C. C. So first off, the negatives. There are many negatives. I think it is inexcusable that From would do this in the final DLC of, the Dark Souls franchise. I think the NPC has some really stupid and annoying moves. I hate that there is a guardian there to heal it.
Mm.
That is very annoying.
That's the worst part of it,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
But I do have to acknowledge that I had a wonderful time using it as an avenue for PvP, both fighting the boss as another player, but also being the boss. I had some wonderful times coming in with broken PvP builds and ending players' careers. So I do need to account for that. I think the biggest flaw with it is its placement. It really should not have been the penultimate boss, and it should not have been mandatory. I think if those two things were true, I feel like a lot of people would forgive Halflight. But the fact that he's right there before the greatest boss the company has ever created, and he's mandatory, makes his flaws look all the more egregious. But yeah, for those reasons, I'd say it's a C.
Can I just put this guy in S just to make Snazzy cry?
Did you guys do the thing, by the way? Did you guys play as the boss sometimes and fight others?
No. Never played as
I did
boss.
try it. It's still just it just feels like it's PvP and it's like it's fine, but you get the fucking what is it? Oh my god. You get the spell, right? The homing soul?
Yes.
Don't you get that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, and you get healed by the guardians. It's
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Yeah. It was fine. I'm not the biggest PvP guy. I
Yeah,
did
me
try it both ways.
Yeah, I just like it's just a worse version of Monk and the Looking Glass Knight, isn't it? Like this time, with Monk, it was you just fight basically the NPC. With Tower Knight, it was you fight the boss and he may summon another player. Here it's like you get the little mob character and he might summon in another player or it might be an NPC again. Like it's not enjoyable and I'm pretty sure that both for this is true for like all three of those fights. That if you go through it now at the Half-Light, you're like guaranteed to have the NPC. But the moment, I mean, it's a cool idea enough, but the moment like players move on to from like Dark Souls 3 to Elden Ring, or from Demon Souls to Dark Souls 1 back in the day, like that mechanic just drops off immediately, and you're stuck with just a shitty NPC that's basically just standing in your way that you just have to get through in order to finish the game. So yeah, it's a D tier for me. Um, mm, Above Ancient Wyvern, yeah. Which brings us to our tutorial boss, Gandir.
For me, Gundyr is still the best tutorial boss they put out. I really enjoy the way you trigger the fight by pulling the coiled sword out of him. I enjoy his phase 1 moveset a lot. I enjoy his phase 2 moveset a lot because I think it teaches you that fireballs are an option in this game, resins are an option in this game, fire damage and just, things like that are parts of the game you need to explore, which meant a lot to me because DS3, as I mentioned before, was my first FromSoft game, and I really organically, I wouldn't have discovered a lot of these mechanics had I not learned about them through fighting Gundyr. I think he has a very good balance of moves for the first boss in the game. It's tough, but not overly so. Teaches you how to, roll properly, time your rolls, get aggressive in phase 2 so that you don't let the pus of man bit sort of start cooking. Everything about it is really quite good. I would say, honestly, it's as far as tutorial bosses go, it's an S tier for me.
I think it's amazing tutorial boss. Just an amazing boss in general. The only drawback for me is in phase 2. Sometimes his pus of man it gets in the way of the view depending how where you are, and it's hard to see what he's doing sometimes. But I'd still give it an A. It's really cool. Walk down toward it, you see him. You think he's dead. You pull that, even though it's gonna happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's still a cool reveal. The phase transition is cool, even though the mechanics during it can be a little annoying with the visibility. But no, I think it's a solid A.
Above Abyss Watchers in B. B plus. It's. And I'm thinking what are basically the tutorial bosses? It's probably the best of the tutorial bosses. Maybe Bloodborne, but yeah. Anyway, the thing is, what holds him back for me is the Buzz of Man. Phase 1, his moveset is great, on par with Champion. It's when phase 2 starts that the fight becomes laughable. Mainly because if you explore in the beginning, you find those fire bombs, and they give you enough fire bombs that you can kill the boss straight away there. And you might say now that not everyone is going to know it is in the first playthrough. I want to point you then to our Homo Nubus series that Nico did. And Nico straight up was like, oh, it has red eyes. I think that means it's weak to fire. I little remember her saying that and just equipping the fire bombs there. So I kind of think that if it wasn't for the Buzz of Man, the fight would have been harder. It would have been A tier for me. But with the Buzz of Man and then the fact that it then becomes extremely weak to fire, it moves to B. If you start as Pyromancy, the entire fight is just a fucking joke.
Yeah, I would say two things to what you said about Nico's. One is that I think DS3 was a fourth Soul game.
Yeah.
So that explains to a great extent why she deduced the piece about the firebombs. When I played DS3, it was my first game, and it wasn't as apparent to me, to be very honest. But I also think, relatedly, that the fact that firebombs do so much damage is actually a pro in the boss's favor, because I think that's the point. It's meant to teach you that pure melee and reckless aggression is not the way to play this game. There are other tools in this game that you need to find and utilize if you want to win. And so I actually think that it's great that they do that. because it teaches you very early, the value of this, and that's something that stuck with me through the remainder of the playthrough. Because whenever I struggled with a boss, I immediately started to think, well, damn, is there something I can find in this game that might make this experience useful for me? So yeah, I would actually consider that a pro rather than a con.
Like I would say that Demon Souls did it first and did it better. I mean, the entire first section, Boletaria Palace 1.1 is just geared to like pick up as many fire items as you can in order to kill Phalanx. Like, I'm not saying that Phalanx is at the same level as Ibex Gundyr. Like, don't get me wrong here. I think Phalanx is definitely a worse boss than Gundyr. But, when you explore, you find shit in the world that you can use later on the boss. I feel that Demon Souls did that way better than DS3 did. And like with those fire bombs in that second phase, like you're meant to use them at that point, and at that moment you're making it so easy. The same thing as we said back in the Demon Souls thing, that when you use that fire, it makes it so easy, and we deducted points on Phalanx for that. And I feel that it's the same thing is true for Gundyr.
That's not what.
Yeah,
That's not
The
why I
difference is-
deducted points. It's just a shit fight.
yeah. And
It's
the
so terrible.
difference is that Phalanx has nothing else going for it. It literally, that's the whole fight. You just pelt it with fire bombs or hit it with a fire-infused weapon. Gundyr has a whole fight. You have to actually get to the privilege of, the puzzle man emerging and you being able to use fireballs before you can even pull that off. It's really only the last sort of third of the fight that is easy. The remainder you actually still need to learn how to roll. And take it from me, I died to him a lot when I first played DS3. Because I had no fucking clue how to dodge and play the game. I'd never played a game like Dark Souls before. So yeah, I don't think that that's like an apples to apples. I cannot see a world in which people die to Phalanx.
I think people definitely died to Phalanx back in the day, like when it first
Yeah,
came out.
I mean, I'm sure there is, but like that might just be because they've been scammed or they're not.
Yeah, you never feel like you got beat against Phalanx. You feel like you got screwed.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, I can definitely see that. Although I'm like, you gotta keep in mind that when Demon Souls released, it was like the first time a game like that was released. Like, you got other hard games, and then something like Ninja Gaiden comes to mind, but not to like Demon Souls kind of situation, where it's very open worldy. In comparison to Ninja Gaiden, it is like pretty much open world. But
I also don't think that's fair because this is a tutorial. Phalanx is the first boss. Like, you're going through an entire area. For Gundyr, you're going through, it's not even a fucking area.
Yeah, no,
you're basically just running to the boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like
a couple things to do.
But that is like one like that. Yeah, okay,
That'd be like Vanguard.
Yeah, Vanguard is like the comparison there, but
yeah.
Then again, to Vanguard, you're meant to die. You're not meant to die to Gundyr, nor to Anyway,
I mean, it's fine. I don't think B+ is a terrible take or anything, but yeah,
it's just I just wanted to point it out, like what you said earlier about like it is you have to get to the puzzle of man situation, and that's true. That is why I still have it in B+. Like if the puzzle of man wasn't there, it would be A tier. If he was weak to that fire damage from the start, or well, it is weak to fire damage from the start, just not as weak as when he is plus to man. But if he was as weak to those fireballs, you get straight away, it would be C tier for me.
Yeah, personally, I think that while I'm not sure that I would, I mean, I gave the boss as it stands like an S tier, so I don't think my rating would increase any if it was all Gundyr all the time in the tutorial. Maybe, in fact, I might have been saltier actually, because I would have found that pretty tough when I first played the game, although now I can sort of sleep and beat Gundyr. But my other thing is, if that was the case, it would really sour my impression of Champion Gundyr, who I love. Because then it would basically be the same fight verbatim twice, but just Champion is a bit tankier and faster in phase 2 than Udex is in the tutorial.
Yeah.
So I kind of like the distinction between the two phases, the two phase 2s. And I think that would be lost if Passive Man wasn't involved. Though I'm not saying Passive Man is something to write home about.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Lothric and Lorian. And while you guys discuss that, I have to take another piss. I will be able to hear you guys, so please continue with the conversation for now.
I love Lothric and Lorian a lot. They're in my top 10 still, I believe, when it comes to FromSoft bosses across the 7 games. I love their story. Both the brothers, I think they have wonderful stories, both of them. I love the music. I love the sort of grand way that you have to get to them. It's annoying. It's a little bit annoying with all the enemies, but there's a kind of aura to them that is conjured up by the difficulty it is that is that you have to go through to get to them. Although I will say it's not that hard either. You can basically run past all of them. The fight itself, I'm a massive fan of what it looks like visually. I think it's so cool that they decided, that Lorian would be on his knees in phase 1 because of, what happened to him in the lore. I really like his moveset. And then the phase 2, I really like the transition cutscene. The way it works out with him reviving his brother. And then the additions that happen from him being part of the fight, those being the spells that he casts, and also, the fact that you need to get behind him to deal damage to end the fight. So yeah, for me, it's an S tier. I love the fight. It's also the fight that nearly broke me when I first played DS3. It's the fight I almost gave up the game on because I just, for the life of me, couldn't do it for the longest time. But having said that, it is also the fight that I always consider the hill that I climbed over that made me continue with FromSoft. Otherwise, that could have perhaps been the junction that I, left FromSoft entirely at and never returned. So for me, it's a very special fight. S tier. The one criticism I will say is, I wish it wasn't the case that you need to get behind him to deal damage. That I find a little bit trickier, but with DS3, I find roll timings very intuitive, so it's easy for me to get behind him and deal damage. Like in, say, an Elden Ring, I find roll timings a little bit trickier to read.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I love them. They're S tier for me. Same sort of reasons. His moveset is very cool, very fair as well. In first phase and in second phase, the only attack in second phase that is a little questionable is that magic attack, because he can pair it with the teleport, and then it gets very difficult to dodge. And then also his teleport chop is very quick, but you can dodge it. It's just difficult. That's not really a problem. Just something to note, but it is all fair. You can do it, and the look of the arena, the look of the two bosses themselves, the magic, it's all really great. And yeah, it's an S for me. I fought them straight up because it's a fun fight. even though I should be cheesing them, and maybe I will in the future because it's a lot safer. But yeah, the fight
It's
itself is S tier.
It's also like visually a fight that I don't think they've ever done before with the. I think it's just so cool that the guy's on his knees, you know, swiping at you, and there's like a very good lore reason for it, but he's still so powerful. You know,
Yeah.
like despite not having the functioning of his legs, he can still absolutely tear you to shreds. Yeah, I love everything about the fight. I have nothing but good things to say.
All right. Um, Opening cutscene, great. Transition thing, great. Like the run up there, I don't mind as much because, like as you point out, like you can run past a lot of that. The run back basically because you have that little shortcut there. That one is. I mean, it sucks that you always have to take the elevator, but you don't have to fight anything. It's just boring to always go up there if you lose. Um, but I don't particularly enjoy the fights. Like I don't have any particular gripes with it, except for the point that Killah already brought up, like the magic projectile thing combined with the teleport. That's bullshit. But yeah, other than that, it's a good enough fight. Like I like the little gimmick of like you either break the stance of the the crawly guy. That's Lothric, right? Oh, that's Lorien.
I think that's
Yeah.
Lorien. Elder Prince Lorien.
Yeah. So you have to break his stance in order to get to his brother, or you have to like be sure that you can circle him. Although with a big enough weapon, you can kind of negate that. But like, I just don't think it's that memorable of a fight. Like lore wise, yeah, it's good, it's solid. It hasn't great lore behind it. But it's not a fight I particularly look forward to. It's not a fight that I particularly hate. I just I'm ambiguous about it basically. Um, but yeah, it has that bullshit combo there with the magic with and the teleport. Like a lot of like in phase one, the moves are well telegraphed. I think the same is kind of true with phase two, except for that bullshit. But yeah, for me, I would say on par with Dragon Slayer armor. Like the lower end of the A tier.
That's fair, I think. Some people don't like the teleporting. The teleporting can be a pain in the ass sometimes.
Yeah.
I still love it though.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I don't like all teleporting bosses. Like I don't like the whole mechanic, and then I bring this up a lot. Like that's one of the criticisms everyone always has about Elden Beast, and then I just yeah, and then what Spectrum points out, it is the worst thing about like the teleporting stuff that definitely these two do, like that it breaks your lock on. I know Killah likes to play without lock on, but I usually
I
play
lock on
with.
for that fight.
Yeah, yeah, it's annoying that you lose your lock on there. Um,
That's kind of a tell for it though, because you only lose the lock. Well, it depends where you are, but you only really lose it when it is that upper one. Otherwise, it does follow. Um, but Yeah, they do. They do have. He does have a tell before he teleports as well to let you know what he's gonna do. Mostly, there's still a little bit of variation in it, but yeah, I can see people not liking the teleports, but I don't. I don't mind them.
I'm not a huge fan of teleportation either in any game, let alone the FromSoft games. But I think as far as it goes, this is the best execution of it that I can think of in the catalog.
Mm.
Don't say fool's idol. I don't even want to hear it again.
Oh my god.
I mean,
Let's move right on before you say fool's idol. I know you're thinking it.
no, not necessarily, because the problem with Fool's Idol, the thing about Fool's Idol teleporting isn't really the teleporting, is it? It is the fact that it teleports and reappears with the clones. You know, that the teleporting
that's the
itself
problem.
isn't. Yeah.
The problem with fool's idol is that it exists.
Oh wow. I feel the same.
Swiftly along.
I feel the same way about Dark Souls 3.
Yeah.
Nameless King.
Straight S tier boss for me. But I have one minor, well, not a criticism, but one thing that I kind of, I don't even know that I dislike about it, but one thing I should note, but I'll get back to that at the end. I love the lore of the character, the mystery around it, the way you get to it, which is, I think, very cinematic and cool and really hypes it up. I love that he descends on a Drake or Vibran or whatever the fuck that thing is. I don't like the Phase 1. I think it's annoying, but honestly, the Phase 2 is so good that I don't even really care that the Phase 1 has a broken camera and is fucking annoying. I also, make concessions for that because Phase 1 is so short. Like, once you figure out it's the head, you need to hit the head. It's very rinse and repeat, easy process. The fight really for me is Nameless King. I love his moveset. I love that he is aggressive regardless of what range you fight him at. If you're close up, he has a bunch of moves that he can pull out. You fight him in the mid range, he has another set of moves, and if you keep distance, then he has AoEs and distant ranged attacks that he can pull out. All of that I think is very cool. I like that the arena is basically the clouds. I think that's kind of wild, but super cool at the same time. I think they kind of do that with Divine Dragon too in some ways. I think that's very cinematic and kind of cool. The one thing that I would note is that I feel like Nameless King is where From went in a direction I don't like, which is the direction of the delayed attacks and the roll timing tests that we then see fully fleshed out in Elden Ring. But that's a very minor sort of observation, less really a criticism. For me, it's a top 15 boss in the catalog and a straight S tier.
Yeah, S for me as well. Almost pushes it to an A with the Phase 1 because it is annoying. Fighting it, I always used to lock on as well, so yeah, I'd break the camera. It was super annoying and just felt like I didn't want to do it again. I just wanted to get to the second part of the fight. Very difficult in a good way. The aesthetic is very good. Yeah, his attacks are very punishing, but they all seem they're all very fair, and it forces you to be patient, which is not a problem because the dodging is fun.
All right. Phase 1 is just. I mean, it's something you get through. Like, it's not fun to pull off. The only redeeming quality there, it is like an easy Phase 1. Like you don't spend too much time in it. Like once you have it figured out, like it has some moves that or easy to punish. But yeah, phase 2 is definitely where Nameless King shines. And yeah, as Doc points out, like he has movesets that can deal with like any range you're at. He can close a distance pretty quickly as well. It is like a spectacle fight. Fighting him on those clouds. The kind of the build up, like the lore wise, it's Nameless King. It just shines. Like lore wise, I would argue he is the best boss in the game. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But like it's been heralded, as when DS3 came out, it's heralded like the Nameless King is the fight. It's an optional fight, but it's like the hardest fight that FromSoft has ever made. And I just don't see that.
Bullshit.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad fight. It's a bad.
I guarantee he clapped Ginge's ass.
No, I'm not saying it's not a hard fight, and it's also a decent enough fight. I do think that when I got to him, when I got in there, and you have that phase 1 that is just, a throwaway. Okay, then you got the phase 2 transitions cutscene, which is amazing. I know phase 2 is definitely a lot harder than phase 1. Like he didn't take me, and maybe this is like, with everything that I've played back then, since before fighting Nameless King. But I just felt that at that moment he kind of got overhyped. And that kind of colored my experiences with him. I didn't think he was like the hardest FromSoft boss I've ever fought. It definitely felt overhyped.
Why is that important, though?
Because that really colored my experience with the boss.
Why is difficulty a criterion for you in boss races?
No,
I'm not sure I understand.
It's not the difficulty of the boss fight. It's the overhypeness. It's the same thing with something. Let me see if I can find another example there. Mesmer.
Oh boy, Caleb is gonna cook now in chat.
No, Mesmer is a hard boss fight, and I think that did they mean the Mesmer fight when they said it's gonna be harder than Melania?
Nobody said that. And if they said that, they need to be drug tested.
No, wasn't that like the fight like that they said like there's a fight in DLC that's harder than...
That was Radon, and some people will still say that, though I think they're very wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of how I... yeah, okay, then it's Radon. Never mind then that I said Mesmer, then it's Radon. Like, it's that boss fight that got like hype, like, oh, it's more difficult than Melania. People are gonna bang their heads against it for weeks, for months, And when DS3 came out, they said the same thing about Nameless King. They said the same thing, like, this is the hardest fight that FromSoft has ever put out. And I went in there thinking, like, this is gonna be the hardest fight I've ever done in a FromSoft game. And it isn't the difficulty that plays a part there in my experience with Nameless King. It's the fact that it's so overhyped, and it just wasn't what we were promised. Like, it's not an easy fight. It's not an easy fight by any stretch. Definitely not as like if you're going in there like for the first time. But because it was so overhyped, it colored my experience with it.
I guess I'm not sure why. Like you haven't explained to me what it is about the fight that failed to meet your expectations. Then, because you're saying it's not difficulty.
No, it's the
Um,
hype around the difficulty.
well, great. There's hype, but you are, as an adult, able to separate hype from your own opinion of the boss, right? So why does the hype even matter? I mean, hype is just a fact of the world we live in now, but we can keep it out of our minds, right?
Well, yeah, like I mean, how can like I'm trying to properly explain this. I'm not saying that it's bad just because it was overhyped. Like it's part of it. Like I'm not saying it's bad. Like I'm still putting it in A tier. Um, like I think ahead of like between Dancer and Champion. And I just like the Dancer fight a lot. Um, I'm trying to see how I can properly communicate this. Um,
Killah just flat out hung up on you, Ginge.
wait, Killah's gone? Oh, Killah's gone. Yeah.
He couldn't stand the nonsense.
What the hell happened to Killah?
No, I think he probably got disconnected because he went to take Winston for a walk or something.
Oh, right. Above the chat, this is ridiculous. Wait, are you kidding me, Killah?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for the life of me, I'm trying to understand your criticism, but I'm just not able to follow. Like,
I think
um,
Glenn puts it there.
uh, you finally come to do it yourself.
Yeah, it
Sure,
just it
I concede that. I
yeah.
felt that with Shadow of the Erdtree. I mean, I thought that they waxed lyrical about it being the greatest DLC of all time and better than Blood and Wine and this, that, and the other. And that wasn't my experience at all. However, I still think it's a phenomenal fucking DLC, and I'll still give it an S tier.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, and Killah.
so-
Yeah. Let's just quickly. Killah, no worries, man. Like this has honestly gone on for way longer than I thought it would. But yeah, no worries, man. Have fun at your sisters, and yeah. Thanks for hanging out, dude. Like I always appreciate you. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm
I
not
mean, it's
saying.
fine. You say it's an A tier, that's fine. It's just, yeah, I wish I could understand what the reasoning was.
Yeah, like it's and as you point out, Doc, like it's not that I don't appreciate the boss. Like as I say, like I'm still putting it in A tier, like high A, like right next to Dancer for me. Um, but yeah, I just felt underwhelmed when I first played it, and then that feeling just hasn't really gone away. Like I appreciate the boss fight, I appreciate the lore, I appreciate the arena, the fight itself. Like it is good. It's just that feeling of being underwhelmed after all the hype hasn't really gone away.
Yeah, I think that's really a shame if that's the case, because I don't think the boss or FromSoft deserve that. That's just a byproduct of the sort of game and media culture we live
Yeah.
in now. And yeah, there's very little you can do about it. I mean, as I said, it colored my impression of Shadow, particularly in the first couple of days when, I remember, I think it was Vati Vidya who said something like, Miyazaki was right. Shadow of the Erdtree is the size of Limgrave, but he lied to us because it's actually 5 Limgraves in one.
Mm.
And then I went to the fucking map for 2 days and I was like, this ain't 5 Limgraves. He's off his rocker. What is he talking about?
Yeah.
And I do think that colored my impressions a little bit, but having finished it, I still think it's S tier. But yeah, I mean, I don't think A tier is like offensive or anything.
Yeah, no, it's just yeah, I just honestly like it is maybe part of like the old culture thing with but it wasn't like just game journalists who were saying like Nameless King is the fight. You know, if it's game journalists, I'm like, oh, fuck off. Like, you've never even seen the fucking fight, you know? Like, you're not good enough to get there. Definitely not if it's like IGN or Games Radar or something saying that. But
I guess the one question that comes to my mind then is, wait, when did you play DS3 in 2016, right? At launch?
yeah, at launch.
Wait, then which boss did you find harder than Nameless King at that time?
Dancer.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, I guess that's a matter of your build and playstyle.
Yeah,
Dancer is not an easy boss.
Out of all the bosses in Dark Souls 3, Dancer is the one. Like, on the one hand, it's the one that is the only one I've ever hitlist, but on the other hand, it is the boss that on subsequent playthroughs has always given me the most trouble. I don't know why that is, but something about Dancer always throws me off a little bit.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a matter of, your build, your play style, so I can't really say, oh, X, Y, Z is objectively harder than, A, B, and C, unless it's something like, Melania is harder than Crystal Sage, right?
Yeah.
No, I think we can move on. I think that's
like, Doug, were you here when I did bow only Dark Souls 3?
No, I always say I think the only DS3 playthrough I've seen of you in the last year and a half now that I've known you is the Deathless attempt that you left unfinished. And also, what's that mod called? Convergence, DS3.
Convergence we did a full playthrough of, yeah. Yeah, no.
And I guess Archthrones as well, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, but I haven't completed Archstones. Honestly, like, when I was doing the bow run, like, I was a Dancer. I either needed to kill Dancer or I needed to kill Deacons. Like, ideally, it would have been Dancer, because then I would get more upgrade materials, because Deacons was just, with a bow, was just a DPS check. And, like, both of them gave me so much trouble. In the end, I think I killed Dancer first. But yeah, Dancer is just one of those fights in out of all the FromSoft catalog. Dancer is the one that I still have the most trouble with, and I don't know why. Because it is a very telegraphed fight.
Yeah, I think you need to watch someone like Killah do it, because once you see it, it actually... Yeah, I mean, I said when we were talking about Dancer that I really enjoy the fight now, because I feel like I understand it on an elemental level, and I know where to be. So it actually makes me feel very good at DS3 when I fight her. But yeah, that's only if, you figure out the key movesets. I think you need to watch someone else do it, and I think it'll really click for you.
I've seen Killah do it. I've seen, I think I've seen Nyx do it. I've definitely seen Shik do it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I haven't spent that much time in DS3. Like, at least not recently. I mean, I have been doing, like the practice runs that I said earlier, or at least, like, trying to get a couple of attempts. Attempts, not really. But trying to get more familiar with the game, because I want to go back some point at challenge running. But yeah, Dancer, like, even having seen those guys do it, like, even having seen Gino do it, it still gives me trouble.
Gino, I wouldn't look at doing it, to be honest. I feel like I get the wrong impression from watching him, because he makes everything look horribly easy, right? It's like, watching, professional basketball player take a 3-point shot, like, they make it look very easy, and then I stand there and I can't even hit the rim with the ball. So yeah. But no, I take your point. But yeah, I want to also flag that I have like 30 minutes left, so I want to maybe speed up the remaining of the bosses.
Oh, right. Holy crap. Osiris.
So I know a couple of people in chat really dislike this boss for that dash he does. Which almost has like no telegraph and kind of, does a lot of damage. I personally have never found that to be as much of an issue for me, but that might just be a product of when I end up fighting Osiris. Maybe I just have enough vigor to tank it or whatever. But, outside of that move, I just find the boss kind of boring. It doesn't have very many interesting moves. I don't like the frost damage in phase 2. It's a bit annoying. The arena sometimes has very weird, like, obstacles in it that you can get stuck in and have him pulverize you. But it is cool that he has some dialogues, which is kind of nice. And he also got Champion Gundyr, which I like too. So I'd probably say a B minus. Not very offensive, but not particularly great either.
Yeah, just give me 1 second. There we go. Yeah, I would say C minus. Like between Deacons and Crystal. Like it just does some weird shit, and then the whole charge thing. Yeah, definitely. Like it's phase 2. It's just a pain to deal with. Like it's not hard to necessarily deal with. It's just annoying. Like it's not that special. It's not that I mean, yeah. It's just
It's boring.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and it's optional. Like yeah, it's fully optional. The only thing is like it stands between you and Champion if you want to go fight Champion, but like the entire area there is optional.
Yeah. He has some good lore though. I like his story and what he was trying to accomplish with Ocelot.
True. But yeah, he goes into C. Old Demon King.
This guy fucked me up a lot on my first playthrough of
Really?
PS3 because, yeah, he did. I mean, it was my first playthrough of a From game again, right? And for the life of me, so my big problem back then was I had only played hack and slash games in the ARPG kind of genre. And so my instinct was always to be super aggressive and be right at the boss's, feet fighting. But with this guy, so many of his attacks require you to create distance to evade, or just flat out run away. And that's why he ended up clapping me many times. I think I died like 15 times before I killed him. Overall, I would probably put him in the B tier. I like his arena a lot, with all of the corpses and such. It's got quite a cool aesthetic. I think the boss actually looks quite cool as well. The moveset is fine. There's some moves I like, some I don't like. I'm not a huge fan of the orb that he conjures up that does, the explosions that you have to outrun, because sometimes you can kind of get stuck against the corpses in this arena and then get obliterated by that particular attack. But outside of that, yeah, I think it's an okay fight. So I'd probably say B tier.
C under Osiris.
Okay.
It's just as Snazzy points out, like the meatball rain is just fucking annoying. He has like his design is basically just Stray Demon again. Design wise, not moveset wise, except this guy he's on fire. So nothing special there. He's not that memorable. Luckily he's optional. He has those fire attacks that can basically hit you through the entire arena. Doesn't matter where you are or what happens. Yeah, it's a terrible fight. Like, it's not enjoyable. You just do it when you want to get all bosses down. Like, otherwise there's absolutely no reason to fight that guy.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really argue with too much you said there. I would also say that he's kind of like the harbinger of this new era in the Souls genre specifically, of bosses that do these attacks that you have to basically run away from to evade. I don't know about you, Ginge, but I personally do not enjoy that at all. It really, makes me feel kind of passive and makes me feel like I'm waiting to play the game, if you know what I mean. Like I'm waiting for my chance to do something in the fight, and the boss is just cooking. I felt that a lot with Bale too in the DLC, in the recent DLC. So yeah, that's definitely a very annoying aspect. I think Spec is getting at that with his comment about running away from the meteor rain as well.
Yeah.
And I know Sheep hates those moves too. He's just being sarcastic.
Sheep is always fucking salty. But I don't like. It kind of depends on the boss and like the move, though. Like there are like those moves where you have to run away from, and then you have to run back in order to like get back in there and fight the boss. And where you have to run to the other side of the fucking arena and then back again. Like I think for the moves where you have to run away, distance really plays a factor for me. Like if it's in if it's in a smaller arena, and like through a lot of those attacks though, like you can roll through them, and then that kind of helps them out. Like it's not that, like if you run away, it's gonna follow you. You need to kind of run away, but if you have like high enough gear or something or enough iframes, you can roll through some shit. And then if the run back isn't like, okay, I need to cross the entire arena, it's fine. But yeah, old Demon King definitely has some attacks where you're like, okay, I just need to start running now and stop when the attack ends. I think the most egregious example of that is Rykard with the whole skull rain thingy.
Yeah, I think it also depends on what the boss follows up the runaway attack with. Like with Morgoth, for example, when he does the holy daggers thing or spears thing that fall from the sky, you need to run away to evade those. Generally, right after that, he allows you to get close to him and fight. Rodan in the DLC, when he does the holy curtain attack, once he transitions into phase 2, immediately after you evade that, he gets up close and personal to you with a dash. But some bosses, the worst ones for me, are the ones that make you run away, and then when you run back to catch up with them, they teleport again to the other end of the arena, and you just feel like, what the fuck, bro? I just evaded something, and now I have to do this whole run thing again.
Oh, you mean Lothric and Lorien? Okay.
I don't think that's true of Lothric and Lorien. I think they actually, do the reigns, and then they teleport right behind you and start getting aggressive again. Also, you said distance is an issue. Lothric and Lorien's arena is pretty small.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas with some of these arenas, like Bale's, for example, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But I don't think it's yeah, I mean, I want to say something about the ER thing, but we're not getting into that. But yeah, let's put him here into C. But yeah, old Demon King is just not a good fight there. Next up, we're looking at Pontiff.
Pontiff, big fan. Would place an S tier if it wasn't for the duplicate. The duplicate I find a little bit annoying. I feel like it kind of ruins the flow of the fight in phase 2 to some extent. It doesn't have much HP, so it's not a huge roadblock. You can also, just ignore it if you like. But I do find it to be a bit of an annoying kind of hurdle that they throw you away suddenly and out of the blue. But barring that, I really like his moveset. I love the arena, the music, the lore. He's a very cool character. He was actually famously meant to be the last boss of DS3 until they decided to go in a different direction. So I'd probably have him in high A tier, personally.
Okay. B tier.
Did you say B or D?
B. I'm not putting him in D.
B.
I think if I put him in D, everyone here in chat, you included, Doc, would unfollow and just leave.
Yeah, D would be nuts. B is yeah. I don't think it's a bad take because I probably know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, it's first of all it's a clone. Um, Secondly, it's I God damn you, Glenn. It's I don't like the combination of the two elemental damages. Like it's one of the reasons why I'm not that fond about Lothric and Lorien as well, or honestly maybe it's the reason why I'm having so much trouble with Dancer. But for some reason, it feels worse in the Pontified. And yeah, it's just I don't like. I get it's lore wise and everything. But lore wise, I think Sheeple has more to say about that. I feel that he was an expert on lore. But yeah, it's just the fight just didn't speak to me. Like he has some fun little combos. He has like the whole reach thing. And I understand that the incentive of the clone is basically that you see what he's gonna do before he does it, but it's just not enjoyable to see that and then to deal with two of him basically. Like if they stick together the entire time, like if they really like uh, the way the clone is born, like it's just like centimeters out of the boss basically. If that was true for the entire fight, I think it would be more manageable. But they have a tendency to like one drifts to the left, the other one drifts to the right, and that's just annoying. Because you have to like keep an eye on both of them. Like the arena isn't that big, but it's just an annoyance there.
Yeah, I would say they need to kind of stop with that arena structure. They've done it so many times.
Mm.
You have that same arena structure from the beginning, from like ONS to Pontiff, Dancer. They've done it with Lothric and Lorien. They've also done it with Godskin Noble in ER. I'm just kind of a little bit tired of the cathedral-looking, rectangular space that you fight some of these bosses in. They really need to be a little bit more imaginative, I think, with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think like anything you said is grossly off base. I guess where are you putting them in the B tier then?
Above Abyss Watchers. I do like it more than Abyss Watchers. Sister Freeds.
Frida, I really like. She basically saves Ariandel from being the worst DLC from ever made. I love her lore. I love the sass that she has with, telling you don't fucking go into that door. If you go in there, I'm gonna beat your ass. And then that look that she gives when you open her boss door from the mosquito room, when she kind of looks at the boss door opening, that just, sends chills down my back because I know this is going to be a bad boss. She's just acting too sort of arrogant and demeaning at that point. But the fight itself, I really enjoy. I think phase 1 is simple, classic, doesn't do too much. Gives you this false sense that, oh, you should be fine here. You're going to coast through. Phase 2 then ratchets things up to, 10 suddenly with the madness of Father Ariandel just jessing around the arena, the flame damage, the ice damage, the fact that you have to kind of balance the two of them and make sure that you're getting damage off on one of them while keeping an eye on the other. I think that's all pretty interesting. And then phase 3 is just balls to the wall very high stress, very tough fight. I do think she could have probably done with a little bit less HP in phase 3, given how hard she hits and how much she can cook with her combos. But that aside, I don't really have very many criticisms of the boss. I really enjoy it. I would give it an S tier person.
B tier under Sullivan. Like she has this lovely little cutscene when the fight begins. You know, of her basically like walking into the arena and being like, "I fucking warned you. You didn't need to fucking do this. I'm gonna kick your ass now." But it's 3 fucking phases. Like, why? Why in God's name? And it would be better if there was like a checkpoint behind each phase or something like that. But oh my fucking god. It's such a long fight. Phase 2 is just, it's a throwaway. Like, I don't find phase 2 interesting at all. Also, it's very easy to deal with. Like, you just focus on what's his face, Father Arundel.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Freed starts to heal, you just make sure that you have 1 firebomb equipped, throw it at her, and it's done with. And then phase 3 just goes full mental, where like your positioning needs to be correct, or you need to, or you're gonna die. Like the whole turning invisible thing. And there are a little bit signifiers of where she's gonna pop up or where she is, but I feel that Priscilla did it better. With Priscilla, you actually saw the feet in the snow. Like, Sister Freed gives very little, in comparison, very little indication on where she is.
She uses the audio cue, right? Like, there's that very loud, kind of high-pitched shriek sort of sound that comes when she's about to slash from behind you.
Yeah, but I shouldn't need to like have the audio cue to actually find her. I you know, when she goes invisible, I should be able to spot where she is, or at least like have some idea. The only thing that goes on in the free fight is like, here's an audio cue, you're gonna get hit now, or you know, either dodge or get hit. But yeah, it's like doing that. I know there's probably like Shane Killah is gone because I think there is like a script where she's gonna, you know, pop up or something. But it's an annoyance. I don't like the fight particularly. Like, I like phase 1, I like phase 3, if it was like separate things. You know, like if there was like a checkpoint between those, I think I would enjoy the fight a lot more. But yeah, it's too long. And then Killah is here and he doesn't think there's a script. And thank you for the resub, Killah. Appreciate you, dude. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, I think the hitless guys enjoy Frida a lot because you really get to study her moves and understand the openings. I know Nick's had that experience when he was practicing all bosses DS3. But no, I mean, this is one of those that I can't really debate with you because I think it is a subjective boss with the 3 phases, the difficulty, the madness that is phase 2. So I don't, you know, feel like B tier is outlandish or whatever. I personally enjoy it a lot, but I can see why some people would not enjoy it.
Alright. And he's going here with Sullivan. And now we have it, the one S tier fight in
yeah, this is straight S tier, no discussion needed.
Yeah. It's lore wise, move wise, location wise, it's just amazing. Yeah.
They cooked hard.
I've said this before, and I'll continue to say this. Gael was the best way they could have closed the trilogy down.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's literally nothing wrong with the fight. Even, I've been realizing this with calling him Prime, but Promised Consort Radahn, that even elevation is not an issue with Gael. Like, you must have noticed, uneven planes in FromSoft games really fuck up the combat mechanics. With Gael, it's literally a non-issue, and it's amazing because it's a huge arena with very big, elevation gaps, differences. Whereas with Promised Consort Radahn, even a minor elevation can be the difference between you getting slapped up by something he does, or evading it completely at times.
Yeah.
So yeah, even like something that they historically have always messed up, they got right with Gael.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Gael is just
No,
I mean, I feel that with the elevation thing, they actually like is a correct word here, digressed or it's like with I think it's true for Sekiro as well as Elden Ring. They definitely digressed in comparison to the elevation thing in Slave Knight Gale.
Yeah, definitely. They've historically always had a problem with uneven planes. SOC.
Yeah, and this is an example. The elevation thing there is ugh.
I
guess
guess
minor
it is.
elevation.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I guess I've gotten really good at SOC, so I never let him push me into the parts of the arena where elevation becomes an issue, but that is true. And for hitless, that's a big problem because with hitless, you kind of have to let the boss give you the openings, right? Like you can't run the fight, so to speak. So I think, yeah, that is definitely an issue. I'm gonna say low S tier personally. I really enjoy the fight. I like how he looks. I like that he charges you the moment you enter his arena. I love his arena with the eclipse moon and everything. I like the concept of it, that he's basically you. In many ways, he's like the yous who have linked the flame for centuries past in one person. And I love that, when you get past the yous, he emerges as Gwyn again in all his glory, but this time, Gwyn who can cook a lot harder with some very, very deadly combos. I love the music. The little homage to the Plin Plin Plon is iconic, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think, the elevation is a bit of an issue. I'm not a huge fan of the spear phase. I think that's decidedly harder in phase 1 than his other avatars, if you will. Like, his mage is very easy. The curved sword is pretty easy. But there's this one part of it that is much harder, so you have to kind of like just dodge and wait till he pivots off that. But yeah, I think that and the elevation are really the only issues I have with the fight. Other than that, I'd give it a low S tier.
I want to say B here as well. I'm doubting kind of because like high B, low A. But yeah, the thing is like, yeah, it's meant to be like this boss that basically is an amalgamation of everyone who linked the fire before. But what that I mean is base. I'm thinking how to put this. Like it's the Gideon fight, but with melee weapons instead of spells. And that's even
Oh,
not
God.
fair because he has spelled space as well.
Oh,
You know?
God. Please don't tell me you have him in the same bracket as Gideon.
Oh no, Gideon is better. But oh, I think yeah,
Ain't
high
no way,
B.
bro.
Yeah, I'm not serious. Like Gideon is not better than Solo Sinner. But yeah, I just mean like he does the whole in like phase one. He does the whole stance changes between the weapons. He does a little magic phase. Like it's basically fighting five different bosses. I think he has like four distinct movesets in phase one, and then you have then phase two. Um, and none of them are like particularly enjoyable. They're not bad either, but yeah, it's just like the whole switching around thing. I would much rather fight like him straightforward in either his spear phase or whatever. His katana phase doesn't matter to me, and I feel that they kind of dropped the ball there in how to do that because we've seen this with Demon Prince. Depending on who you kill first, same thing with ONS. Like who you kill first depends on what phase two you're getting. Um, I kind of feel that they could have done something with like the four different phases of Soul of Cinder. Like depending on maybe I don't know. Did you save Secret out of the jail, or did you something like that? Like that something that you did affects who you're getting, or that something in the arena, or something or something about your build affects it. I kind of feel that that's like a missed opportunity. Now it's just like, oh, okay, he's going to spear phase. Okay, I don't really like that phase. Let's just run around circles around him until he changes his phase again. Um, and then you have like the phase two, which is just Gwyn, except he's not that easily parable. Um, and then I like the fact that it's an homage, and from a lore standpoint, it makes sense. But yeah, it is kind of a copy paste, not entirely, but definitely with the fact that they did choose the music, it feels more so. And like DS3 has been already filled with homages. I don't think they needed to make the end boss an homage.
I think, yeah, I think that they wanted the base game, I guess, to be a sign off for DS for Dark Souls, and I mean the DLCs are, I would say, less heavy on homages, though there are some. Like in Ariandel, you visit the spot where you fight Priscilla, and in Ring City you visit Earthen Peak, for example, um, and of course Old Filing Shrine and stuff. Personally, I mean, I see what you're saying. You don't like the fan service, so to speak. I can understand that, but I personally liked it, and also I feel like I'm able to kind of detach myself from that a little bit more because, as I mentioned to you, I played DS3 first,
Yeah.
before I even knew who the fuck Gwyn was. So I'm able to kind of think of the fight objectively outside of Gwyn, and I really enjoyed it. And then I think after I came back to it, having fought Gwyn, I kind of liked it even more actually because I was able to spot the connections. But I think that's just a matter of perspective.
Yeah. I think for like I think as the first playthrough in DS3, it's has so many homages both in DLC as well as in the base game, and I get why they did it. Like I'm not against fan service per se, but a lot of DS3 feels like the final movie in the Star Wars saga. The whatever fuck it was called again. You know, where it's more fan service than being its own distinctive thing. And that's one of the reasons why people enjoy Dark Souls so much. Like that there's a thread going through all the three games, but it's not that evident. I mean, you see it in some parts, you see it how it kind of connects, but it's not on full display. And definitely with the Soul of Cinder boss fight, it was on just full blast in phase 2. Same thing with the Ender Londo. Like, the Ender Londo thing was a great throwaway when you got up there, as I said before. But, like, yeah, it didn't... Yeah. Just don't put too much of that in it. And then I think that Soul of Cinder should have been its own distinct boss without having to bring Gwyn into it.
Where are you putting it then?
High B, buff, buff Gundyr. Yeah, that feels right. The next one is Vord of the Boreal Valley.
Don't have very much to say about Ward. I think he's an okay boss. Not particularly interesting or fun, but not particularly offensive either. I reckon most people clap him quite quickly because his moveset is pretty readable. I'd probably say B plus, maybe. Yeah, I think that seems about fair.
I kind of feel that I'm maybe a more harsher on it. Like, Vord is just a boss that is there. Like,
that's true spec. The OST is very good. But most people actually miss that out because he dies so quickly.
yeah, I mean, he like I can still die to him, to be fair. But it's just like I don't understand why he has to be on fucking 4 legs. Like, I think he would have been a proper boss if he like stood up straight and have like a Tower Knight-esque moveset. And yeah, now he's just there. He doesn't do like he has a rush attack. He does frost damage, but I don't feel he's special in any way. He's just there. Like I don't see how to explain it. He's just there and he needs to die. And yeah, I'm feeling C, like above Deacons, but under Aldrich.
Yeah, I think I like him more than Deacons for sure.
Yeah.
I probably like him more than Aldrich too, but that's only because some of Aldrich's attacks annoy me, whereas nothing about Ford necessarily annoys me. But yeah, I mean, he's not a special boss by any means. You won't catch me, yelling from the roof, defending balls.
Yeah. But I think that's kind of it though. Like, you remember Aldrich because he has like 1 or 2 bullshit moves. Like, you don't really remember Ford. Ford is just there to get through. Like, he doesn't. Yeah. Yeah, Killah, you missed out. It's B for Cinder. I mean, you just had to go and have a social life. Fuck you, dude. Moving on. Walnir.
This one's a tough one. My first instinct is D, but I'll be charitable and say C because I think visually the boss is very impressive. Looks very, very cool. And he actually has some very cool animations, like his expression when he first emerges, his expression when you kill him and he descends to the abyss. He has like this visible look of fear, having fallen into the abyss. I like all of that a lot. Having said that, the fight itself is such a boring and stupidly designed fight. We mentioned earlier that Last Giant and Giant Lord, for example, require pedicure. Well, with this guy, we're giving a manicure. That's the only thing that's different. So yeah, I'd probably say C. A very, very, sort of passable boss with a good visual appeal.
Yeah. C. Like,
yeah.
And then under Aldrich, above Ford.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually kind of agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the thing is, the thing that really annoys me about Volnir is it's one of the few bosses in FromSoft that is like, hey, here is my big shiny weak spot, start hitting on it, and like 9 out of 10 times the fight goes off without a hitch. You destroy the armbands, and it's done. Like, he hasn't even fucking moved. And then you have that one fight in 10 where he just goes fucking ape shit. Where he summons his skeletons, where he just basically starts moving forward the moment you enter that arena. Where he crawls at you and the mist just kills you in like 2 hits. And I fucking hate that. Like, either be consistent about your moveset, or like, yeah, that when that 1 in 10 fight happens, it's just such a fucking piss take. Like, you know how to fight him, you know how to do it. It's just that his RNG suddenly decides, like, oh, you know what? I flipped the coin. I'm gonna be aggressive this time.
Yeah, I've personally never experienced that, but I do know that, you're on the money with the mist and stuff. And I think I have been hit by the skeletons a few times, but it's never been like a big deal for me because I just flat out ignore them. They don't do that much damage. But the mist, yeah, definitely hits like a truck. Like, if you don't keep an eye out, it will erase your HP.
Yeah. The worst thing about it is, and I've tried this, like, I don't know if it was a challenge run that I was doing, or just like a regular playthrough that I decided to try this. And he was being aggressive, and I thought, like, okay, I'm just gonna run as far back as I can. And there is actually like an end of that arena, like you can hit a wall all the way up the slope. And once you hit that wall, you're guaranteed to die. Like, because he actually gets too close to the wall, and the mist will kill you there. I mean, I know it's not how you're meant to fight him, but yeah, it's just bullshit that if you play it safely and you back away, that you're guaranteed to die.
Yeah, I think we in broad strokes agree. He's a bit of a letdown, really. Especially if you saw the trailer of the game, he looks very cool in the trailer, and then you go and fight him, and
Yeah.
it turns out it's just a gimmick.
Yep, indeed. And speaking about the gimmick fights, Yorm is last.
Yorm used to be my favorite gimmick fight before Rykard. I like him. I mean, he's still fun. He has a very cool visual look, an arena. I really like his story and the story of what happened in that entire area, the name of which eludes me. I really like fighting him with Siegward or Siegmeyer or whatever the hell he's called in the S3, because that's also a very cool story, and the dialogue exchange is very, very cool. It's a fun fight. I mean, as far as gimmick fights go, it's one of the better ones. I would probably say an A tier for me.
It's just pointed out, like, it has the greatest cutscene ever if you follow the Onion Knight quest line, and then you said it as well. Like, it's just amazing there, and yeah, it's Profane Capital. I couldn't remember either. Like, I wanted to say Irritable Dungeon, but it's not. Like, it's the extension of it. But yeah, it's Profane Capital, the area. What kind of knocked it down for me now, and I would have agreed with the A tier, like low A, high B. What kind of knocks it down to solid B now, like I'm not even considering A anymore, is what I've discovered during the bow run. Because I honestly thought that, like, gonna fight him during the bow was gonna be like one of the hardest things I had to do, and he's laughable because with any ranged, and I tried this later on with magic, you can target his head, and he takes like massive damage there even without Storm Ruler. And I didn't notice for the longest time. And that kind of it's the same thing with Tower Knight and Demon Souls, and that kind of brought the whole fight down for me. Like I'm not even gonna go for Storm Ruler anymore. I'm picking up a bow and I'm just you don't have to charge the bow. You don't have to like wait for the little wind thing, wait for the opening. You can just keep backing off and keep shooting at his head. And that kind of ruined the fight for me.
What tier did you have him in then?
Between Abyss Watchers and Demon Princess in B.
Yeah, A and B, I think is matter of perspective. To be very honest, I generally don't like gimmick fights at all. So because of that, I try to have a different criteria in place for gimmick fights, and much of that criteria surrounds how annoying the boss is. I generally find Yorm less annoying than most of the other gimmick fights, including one that we will discuss next week in Divine Dragon.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm at A, but I get that you are at B, and I don't think that that's off.
Yeah. And I think Caleb brings out a good point as well. Like Profane Capital was underwhelming, and it's kept off by kind of an underwhelming boss as well. I feel Yorm could have been better. But yeah, it does
Well,
get.
that's the end of DS3. I feel like the big crime here was the lack of S tier bosses. For me, there's like 7 or 8 S tier bosses in DS3. I think Killah is gonna at least have 5 and maybe more. But you generally are rating the bosses a lot lower. So I think in terms of match, I would probably have like a 60% match with you maybe on this one.